right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. How's everybody doing tonight? Hit that like and subscribe, and let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party. Guys, that is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. Let's also say thank you to my6shirt.com, the only place to get your very own The Indian Jesus official merch. Only at my6shirt.com. All right. What is good? We got Zippy in the building. Welcome to the party. So I am very glad, very glad that Triggernometry did this, because I am getting so sick of talking about this war. But we have a different angle. You guys know that I'm not a news channel, so I don't want to, we did a specific thing with the war itself, where we had a panel and I brought people on to talk about it. But that's not really what I do. I like to take conversations that are going on and break down what the content of the actual conversation is. So we have a very special show tonight, because I don't know if you guys remember the intellectual dark web. That was like the 2015. You had Sam Harris, Eric Weinstein, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, and they were, I think Dave Rubin was, kind of part of it too. And they were going around doing live speeches and stuff. And I kind of think it really is Sam's fault for being just way too far down the TDS rabbit hole and broke that all apart. But now he is back with Eric Weinstein, and they are talking about all of this stuff. Welcome to Bon Zig. Welcome to the party. And so, I always like to give you guys the lens, the perspective through which I am watching this. So as I'm watching this, what I'm looking at is somebody, Sam Harris, who I know has TDS. But also, as you can see in the chat, I was talking to Zippy before we started, that there was a time when no one on earth had more respect from me than Sam Harris. And strictly because of his TDS is why it left. But and we always talk about, people who are really good in one area and then they think they know everything about everything. And so they're talking about something that they have no idea about, and they're talking out their ass. Sam, again, is one of those people. But now, as we get back to Islamic terrorism, this is his wheelhouse. Shout out to Doodad Attack. Welcome to the party. As always, guys, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
We just have to acknowledge that there is a subset of people in the Muslim world for whom it is true, as they say of themselves, that they love death more than we love life.
You have groups of people who are offered a state who we are not listening to. They do not want the state that they're offered. They're offered a choice between a state and a chant. From the river to the sea is what they chose.
They had the choice between a state and a chant.
I'm just saying we have to recognize we're in a hot war.
Sam, I think this is the same problem that you're having with Trump and other things, which is you are being invited into the abyss.
Gentlemen, welcome both.
Yeah, exactly, Bonzig, a comeback tour. Or is it? That's what we're here to see. Because again, the man knows Dogma. The man knows Islamic terrorism. But as Zippy brought up before, TDS is very dogmatic. And he is very bad with his TDS. So we will see. Shout out to Gold Holder. Welcome to the party.
The reason our show works is neither Francis nor I pretend to be experts. And we ask the questions that are on the minds of most people, or at least we try. I think the questions that are on the minds of most people now...
Please don't forget to like that video, guys. Thank you.
That we are in a moral quandary because we simultaneously believe many things about Israel and Palestine that are incompatible. And I'll give you a list. I don't want innocent civilians to die.
Nope.
And Israel has to destroy Hamas. These two are already internally contradictory.
That's a good point right there. Because, talking about the two-state solution that clearly is not a viable solution, somebody going to have to win and somebody had to lose. And a loss means that innocent people are going to die.
And we can keep going further and further into exploring that. But what I see is that the thing that is right to say on social media, to look smart and sophisticated and
Hey, shout out to Carson McAlpine. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And shout out to Doodad Attack. Welcome to the party.
balanced
Hey, I like that profile picture.
and nuanced is impractical. It puts you in a position where you don't know what to do. So how do we think about this? How do we think about this issue, Sam?
I'll do it. Hey, and we Doodad, bring in the party. Shout out to Back with Caden H. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Very glad to see ya.
I'm not saying anything on social media. That's one life hack that I would recommend.
That's amazing, right? I'm usually terrible at
I've been looking at social media, and I've been
welcome,
seeing that it's. I just think it's poison for us. I mean, even the good parts are making it impossible to. I think it's making us ungovernable. Like I think it's eroding the basis of democracy. It's like even the true information, even the virtue of it is that it's giving some kind of transparency that you fear would not otherwise exist, and that is, good for error correcting on some level. But even that.
Shout out to CT223. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party.
That in surplus is toxic, and then there's all the distortions of it. There are the things that are performative that wouldn't be happening in the real world, but for the fact that it's going to be broadcast on social media. I just think it's, as I've said many places before, I think it is a kind of psychological experiment that is deranging us.
Agreed.
And so,
but let's come
wokeness? I don't even know what he's really talking about.
to Israel and Palestine, because I think that's what people want to think about rationally. How do we think about that issue?
Well, I think.
Yep, CT is exactly right. This will be good. Sam and Eric are both super smart. Sam just has TDS. And as I usually, skip through these things, there was a number of times where they got relatively heady and relatively philosophical. And the trigonometry guys did a very good job of kind of bringing it back down into more layman's term. Aw, sleepover. That's cute. Are you guys braiding each other's hair?
The most obvious error that people will make now is to imagine that body count is the only measure by which the moral balance swings, right? So if Israel goes into Gaza and inadvertently kills more people than were killed on their side, they've done too much by definition, right?
That's what the Palestinians, or at least Hamas members, are saying. Supporters, let's say, that even if they were attacked first, again, this goes back forever, but in the recent conflict, even though Hamas attacked Israel first, if Israel has a stronger attack now in their minds, then Israel's the bad guys, which, again, as we really went over, there are no good guys in this situation. There's bad guys and there's worse guys. And then there's completely innocent people who have nothing to do with it. But there's nobody fighting that's a good guy. So because the problem is with more information, there's more abuse of information. Thus, if you centralize law around supposed truths, all you gain is tyranny and slavery.
Bingo.
Yep. Theocracy at its finest.
That's wrong in all kinds of ways. But the obvious way that it's wrong is that it completely ignores what people are actually attempting to achieve on both sides, what kind of world they're attempting to build, what their intentions actually are.
What, you mean they don't just want peace and democracy?
What would they do if they had more power? If the asymmetric power in the region were reversed, how would Hamas behave vis-a-vis Israel, right?
Yeah, and you hear all the time that if they, took down the whatever from the Gaza Strip, and that Hamas would go and kill people, whereas Israelis would do nothing. Now, again, that's a simplification, but clearly Hamas is the more egregious party here.
And one thing is obvious. Israel, for decades, if it had wanted to perpetrate a genocide against the Palestinians, could have done that on any given day, right? It would have been trivial. Tomorrow, they could kill everyone in Gaza if they wanted. They obviously haven't wanted that. They obviously don't want to do that now. If you reverse that balance of power and ask, what would Hamas do? What would jihadist organizations anywhere do? They would kill all the Jews. And they have told us that ad nauseum. The founding charter of Hamas said that explicitly.
Yep.
It looked forward to a time where Quranic prophecy would be realized, when the earth itself would cry out against the Jews, where the rocks and the trees would say, "Oh, Muslim, there's a Jew behind me, come kill him," right?
Except for one tree.
Yeah, except the one tree, yes, yeah.
Hey, shout out to Doc McStuffins. Welcome to the party. Good to see you. Hey, we got Victor Spade in the building. How we doing over on Twitch? Welcome to the party, guys. Good to see you.
That's right. So that the difference in intention, while people think intention is this abstraction, intention is the software that everyone is running. Intention is the best predictor of what people will.
It's a nice little. It's a little bit bigger than that. Actually, I don't know. What constitutes as a love seat? I don't know. What is that? Thank you.
Do if they're given an opportunity to do it, right? If they have the power to do it, if they have the technology to do it. What will a jihadist organization do if it gets nuclear weapons? What will a jihadist organization do if it gets, a viable bioweapon, right? We know the answers to these questions. These people have been telling us this for as long as I've been alive.
True, but what Goldholder's saying is absolutely true as well. That's in Hebrew prophecy too, though. The whole world is supposed to turn against them, but end up fighting each other. Yep. Actually, that couch has not been christened. What do you want from me? What do you want from me?
And in
Gotcha.
isolated cases, absolutely proven to a moral certainty their commitment to nihilism and massacre. I mean, the Islamic State, if you knew the details of what was happening in the Islamic State and couldn't understand that these people mean what they say and believe what they say they believe, then you're living on another planet. So anyone who's surprised, the only surprise here is that there was an assumption, and a historically understandable assumption, that Hamas was not as extreme as Al-Qaeda or the Islamic State. And it certainly seems that some among them are prepared to be that extreme. So, but.
Yep, exactly. Victor Spade, both sides have a radical fundamentalist sect. Anything that is based on a dogmatic book is going to end up like this. Anything. Goldholder said, I definitely wouldn't want to live in an Islamic State with mandatory worship times and such. I said, shit, me neither.
I mean, we're splitting hairs. I mean, jihadism is a fairly unified concept. Whatever the methods, whatever the methods and the past behavior, and we just have to acknowledge that there is a subset of people in the Muslim world for whom it is true, as they say of themselves, that they love death more than we love life.
They love death more than you love life. Think about any type of near-death situation you were in where you're like, oh, I didn't even know if I was going to make it, but I did this thing and blah, 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 blah. They love death more than in that moment you wanted your life. Just hanging out. That's their mindset.
We being free, secular people everywhere, Jews, Christians, moderate Muslims. There are people who actually want to be martyred and see their kids martyred, right? They're not bluffing. They're perfectly willing to die for the pleasure and opportunity of killing non-combatants, intentionally killing non-combatants. So that the moral error that people are going to make now, and they're already making it.
Well, Bonzig's saying love is a strong word. Absolutely. That's why they're willing to plow themselves, because they love death. They love death because it means eternal life. If you're a martyr, it's the best thing that could possibly happen to you.
Is to think that when Israel tells people to evacuate northern Gaza, and they don't because Hamas is telling them not to do it, or it becomes practically impossible, and Egypt doesn't let them out, etc. And they drop bombs targeting Hamas installations that have been purposefully put next to civilian areas that will cause carnage when Israel bombs them, like hospitals.
Wait, it's by hospital? Oh, we didn't mean to do that. Well, you're not gonna attack us now because like it's a hospital. Bonzig, you're wrong. You are wrong. You are absolutely wrong. These people love death. It's as Sam just said, it's not a bluff. Why else would you blow yourself and other children up unless you think that death is a good thing? This is unquestionable. They love death. A jihadist loves death. End of story. Goldner said, "Oh yikes, he's justifying forced displacement." Well, I mean, as opposed to what? As opposed to what? Zibby says, "How many millions are harmed by Jim Crow gun law? Humanity insanity is frustrating." Definitely. It is. You're absolutely right, Victor. It's hard for people to think and to be able to understand that no, they really think like this. This isn't like some like LARPing thing. This isn't some game. This is their real life. This is really what they believe. This is really what they think, and this is why they blow themselves up. How could you love life more than? Okay, now you're just trolling. Come on, bro.
And schools and mosques. When Israel bombs those targets and kids die, which is obviously horrible, that is the same thing as Hamas jihadists coming in under cover of rocket fire at dawn and murdering babies in their cribs. It's not the same thing, and body count doesn't resolve that disparity.
Goldholder said a two-state solution. They're not trying to get rid of baddie terrorists. They're using the baddie terrorists as an excuse to land grab. Who's they? Both sides? Because I mean, if you're, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by forced displacement, but the notion that a solution is, beating the other side completely, actually, not just having these little conflicts. That sounds reasonable to me, because hundreds and hundreds of years of fighting, little BS. I mean, not that, that was BS, but I mean, in terms of ending the conflict, that's not working. So if you're talking about, when you say forced displacement, if you mean that one side is going to completely forcefully remove the other off of the earth, it seems like, what other option is there? It's not a good option. But what other option is there for people who love death? Agreed.
So we'll come to you in a sec, Eric. But
just doing this,
as are we all. But what does that mean, Sam? Let me ask you this, right? The United States dropped a nuclear bomb on Japan, 2 of them, and after Hiroshima, I think it was Hiroshima, not Nagasaki. The U.S. Army went in and they measured the blast impact. Not the release of energy from the nuclear bombs, but the actual destructive impact. And then they measured that and said, how much conventional munitions would we have to use to achieve the same destructive impact? In the last year and a half of World War II, the Allies, the British and the Soviets and the Americans.
Whoa. Who said all of anyone? Who said all of anyone? Don't put words in my mouth. I'm saying the people who say that they love death, love death. The people who say, I love death, we love death more than you love life, are not pretending. Nobody is painting any group of people like this except the people who specifically say it.
Dropped 50 Hiroshimas a month on Germany. We flattened it, right? Because it was a death cult that took over that country, and Hitler said, we're going to make a last stand. We don't care about civilian casualties. We're going to stand to the death. What you're saying is Gaza is in the grips of a death cult of the same nature, or worse. What does that mean? Right? I don't want 1 million children in Gaza to die. and be burnt in bomb shelters like the Germans. I don't want that.
And I wouldn't defend our aerial bombing of German cities and our drop-in of the bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. I mean, I think there was a calculation that.
Okay. So we're getting into something that I remember I wanted to do a poll. So this one was kind of just like a fun little one. I'm surprised that 67% of you said that Sam Harris is indeed capable of a good take, given anything he said really since he was on Real Time with Ben Affleck, and Ben Affleck lost his liberal mind. Between then and now, I don't think that he said anything of value. But I wanted to ask, he brings this up and he's talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And all right, I'm just gonna let it play and then put the poll up. You guys got it.
And again, I don't consider myself an expert on recent scholarship on this. I mean, I know that about 20 years ago, A.C. Grayling, the British philosopher, wrote a book about specifically the Allied bombing of German cities, and concluded that it really was ethically unjustifiable. Right? That it's just we told ourselves a story about how this was necessary to win the war, and it was not a compelling story even at the time.
So that's what I want to ask you guys about, especially Replay Gang. If you're watching this after, please let me know in the comments what you think. Was dropping the H-bombs the only way to end World War II? Obviously, it did. Obviously, it was a something that helped the world move forward. But was it the only way? Yes or no? Let me know. Zippy says Japan land war would have been 1,000 times worse than the bombs. And for this situation, Bond 6 saying I got no solutions for what to do though. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough situation. But then at the same time, we can't then be brushing off the discussion of solutions. If you don't have anything better and I don't have anything better, then we may as well listen to whatever the hell they got to say. Victor talking about the H-bombs, that it wasn't the only way, but it's what happened. Indeed. But again, do you think that we could have done something else? Even if you don't know what that solution would have been, do you think there's another way around it?
I'm not so sure what analysis is true there, but what I think...
Shout out to Andy Phil. Welcome to the party. So just remember, Japan did not surrender after the first atomic bomb. It took a second one to convince them to surrender. Good point.
I think Israel is held to a higher standard than certainly we were 70 years ago, and even than we, the British and the Americans are now. I think they should hold themselves to the highest possible standard. I mean, they certainly should be alert to the difference between committing war crimes and following the international law that governs how you wage war. I think they should be as reluctant as they can practically be to kill innocent people. And
yeah, obviously, you don't want to be killing innocent people. That we're kind of past that, Sam. We're kind of past that. Yeah, my CT saying in Japan's culture, surrender isn't an option, but I can't say for certain. I mean, they certainly surrendered after the second one, so it's in there somewhere. And Bon Zig saying the solution ends in a loop that's a nonsensical sentence. That means it's not a solution at all. That's why we're in this position.
Knowing that it's impossible not to kill some innocent people when you're trying to fight militants in a crowded city, right? As especially when those militants, based on their own completely deranged moral worldview, are committed to using their own people as human shields, right? I mean, that just...
Again, because remember, they love death. And as a human shield, you are now fighting jihad. And if you die, then you now go to paradise. You get your 72 virgins. And all is well. Who cares about the apostates? Victor said Japan at the time wasn't making Hello Kitty and Pokemon toys. They were a very different society. Indeed.
Disparity is, as far as the moral, algebra that can give you insight into the difference between the two sides. That disparity says everything to me. It's like, this is something I recently said on my own podcast, but if you just imagine the Israelis attempting to use their own non-combatants as human shields, right, in any conflict against jihadists. Let's say Hezbollah comes across the northern border and the Israelis line up with their own women and kids, putting the barrels of their weapons on the shoulders of their children, thinking that Hezbollah is going to be reluctant to shoot through the bodies of their children to kill IDF soldiers.
Nope. They'd be like, I don't care.
I mean, it is a completely surreal, Monty Python sketch where all the Jews die. It is not. It is laughable. It is unthinkable. It's unthinkable.
Phrasing, bro. Phrasing. It's laughable when you're talking about a G sign.
At every level of it, it's unthinkable that the Jews would treat their own children and non-combatants that way, given what they believe about everything.
I know Eric talks in this video.
And it's not unthinkable that they would think that their enemies would be deterred by that behavior, right? But when you reverse it, as it is the case in the real world, we have had to we Westerners and the Israelis have had to confront this behavior on multiple fronts in every conflict against jihadists. They routinely use non-combatants as human shields, and Hamas is doing that now.
Yep. Hey, shout out to Indie Film for the $4.99. Let's see if we can get Morty up here. Morty, come get your treat. Come here. Look, come here. No? You said I only get out of bed for 10? All right, fair enough. We'll keep it here for him. That's right. Every single super chat donation or otherwise comes with a treat for Morty, and I promise it is right here. He is in his bed, not getting out of bed for that. But thank you so much. Very much appreciated. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream.
I think Israel has to figure out how to navigate around that and eradicate jihadists, eradicate Hamas. We're confounded to some degree by our terminology here. We keep talking about terrorists, and we had a war on terror for a quarter of a century now. Terrorism is a tactic. Terrorism is not the thing we're fighting.
Ooh, terrorism is a tactic. Terrorism is not the thing we're fighting. It is a tactic.
We're fighting jihad, and
what's the difference, Sam? Explain to people what the difference is.
Jihadism.
So before he goes into that, CT asks, are they arguing if jihad is justified or okay? For me, my stance is that not all Palestinians are jihadists. So I don't think, I'm not sure. So they're definitely not saying that jihad is justified or okay. They're arguing the complete opposite. I think what they're talking about is the perspective types of solutions with the mindset of when some people are willing to just, go full bore and literally not even be okay, but be happy to die. Like the type of solution that you can have with people who are willing to sit down and have a conversation and save their people and all that is a very different kind of conversation that you can have with people who think that their only life's purpose is holy war. So no, we're not saying I don't think the word Palestine or Palestinian has been mentioned. That's the second time somebody's talking about all Palestinians this. No, we are talking about jihadists. If we were talking about Palestinians, I would have been saying Palestinians.
Jihadism is the radical core of Islam. It is this principle of holy war that can be justified in various contexts.
And that doesn't mean that every Muslim is a jihadist. I mean, even though according to their book, they should be. But the fact is that a jihadist is somebody who engages in jihad. Shout out to Rabbi Glickman. Welcome to the party. Says Sam Harris is a shame to my people. You ain't wrong, but I'm more mad at the TDS than that. Victor, welcome to the party, Rabbi. Good to see ya. Victor said only the Mujahideen are in jihad. That's not true, friend. That's not true. Now, not all types of jihad are interpreted to be violent holy war thing. I've heard a lot of more moderate Muslims talk about how jihad is, just the internal struggle, but it's not just one group of people. Exactly. Jihad is a spiritual thing. And so, again, the more moderate people will say, yeah, jihad translates to struggle. or war. And so that can be internal, which is, I think, a good ideology. But because of the fact that, one, it's dogmatic, and two, it can be interpreted to mean literal holy war, it's not good. Jihad equals bad.
Yes, there are many, many millions of Muslims, thankfully, who would justify it in ways that we would recognize as something we could live with, right? So a defensive war, right? A just war, just war theory. Okay, great. There are other Muslims who say, no, you don't understand. Jihad is just an inner spiritual struggle. Okay, great.
See, told ya. Guys, if you could just get me 3 more likes. We got 12 people, just 3 likes in here. I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
But historically and practically now, jihad.
What the hell just happened? All right, we're at 1404.
Well, my first comment is that you're going to use words like Palestinian.
1404. Okay. I don't know what. Maybe it's just a video.
A component of jihad has always been you convert, subjugate, kill the infidel. Right? It's like Islam is a religion of conquest. It views itself as a religion of conquest. It expects to win these contests for believers at the end of time.
Well, Rabbi Glickman said, Sam's position on this subject is 100% based on tribalism, which is very weird considering he's an atheist. So I generally am looking to agree with you on the sense that his positions on a lot of things are based on tribalism, which is very weird considering he's an atheist. But I don't think that's the case here. I think he's very consistent, logically so, on the idea of Islam is a death cult and that jihad is the reason behind what we're seeing. I don't think that's tribalism at all.
And it has an explicitly martial ethic, which is...
There you go, Zippy. Asking the right question. Is it tribalism and dogmatic, or is it organic? You can believe something legitimately. Just because you have a belief doesn't mean that it's dogmatic. Dogmatic meaning it can't be questioned. He's here listening to the conversation, and so far, I mean, he's the only one who's been talking. But as far as I've seen, he's been intellectually honest in this conversation. And so just because he might be tribalistic and weird, despite the fact that he's an atheist when it comes to Trump, doesn't mean that that's always that's always what he's going to say. You can know that that's his bias. You can know that that's how he normally acts, and understand that as you're listening to him. But what has he said that is tribalistic so far?
We have to win through force. Right, and we're happy to die trying. However long we fail, we're ultimately going to succeed. But we're happy to throw our bodies and the bodies of our children into this, because this life is a total illusion. It has absolutely no value. This is just a anteroom on the thresholds of either heaven or hell. But
Don Zig, Islam is a fundamentalist religion. The Quran is meant to be the inerrant word of God. It's not like Christianity where it's divinely inspired. These are the words of God. Moderate Muslims should not. That's not what I meant. Being a moderate Muslim shouldn't be a thing. That doesn't make sense. You're saying you know better than what's in your holy book, but the holy book is the holy book and it's the true word of God. What? Either you follow the book because it's the word of God, or it's just got some good stories and stuff. Okay, well, I mean, you should talk to some more people outside of your own, local community. This is the exact same thing as if, when Christians come on and talk, well, Christians don't do, maybe you don't, but there's an entire world of Muslims. There's an entire world of Christians. So do I, brother. So do I. Shout out to Rabbi Glickman. Are you going to tell Rabbi Glickman that you don't know what he's talking about?
And the only thing that matters is where you go after you die, right? And only the true believers go to paradise. And If you kill them inadvertently, if you blow up a crowd of Muslim kids in an attempt to kill some soldiers that are handing out candy to them, as happened in our conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan, there's no factor. The kids,
and it's great. It's amazing. It's amazing. Because now they are in paradise. Now they are in paradise. What? Well, I mean, I knew I'm good, but I didn't know I'm that good. Welcome to the party, Daniel Cabrera. Bro, we're not gonna come on. You know how this works. We're not gonna sit and have a personal discussion. If you want to come to the Discord and talk about this, then we can talk about this. I know well, no, I haven't read it in Arabic, so you're gonna say I don't know anything. Like you act like I don't study this stuff either. Come on. You know me better than that.
The good Muslims, the real Muslims, are going to paradise. They're going to thank you, right? No problem. And the bad Muslims, the fake Muslims, the infidels, the idolaters, they're going to go to hell sooner, and that's good. That's an intrinsic good. That's exactly what the creator of the universe wants. It's impossible to make a moral error when you're a jihadist, right? If you die, it's good. Bingo. If your family dies, it's good. Bingo. If the infidel dies, it's good. Bingo. This is a death cult.
Where is that wrong? Where is that wrong? What is the flaw in true fundamentalist Islam? What is incorrect about what Sam just said?
Possible good. That's an intrinsic good. That's exactly what the creator of the universe wants.
Love you too, buddy. Love you all.
It's impossible.
Fundamentalist, welcome to the party. Asher Bow, welcome. The fundamentalist fundamentalist Muslims, the jihadists, are a death cult. Welcome to the party. Kohler said that's a ridiculous statement. He's extreme. You guys, did you not just see that a whole fucking music festival got bombed? What do you think is happening? What do you think is happening? We're not talking about your friend down the street who claims to be a Muslim. We're not talking about Andrew Tate, who claimed to be a Muslim so that he could look better. We're talking about actual jihadists, the real people who are out there doing these things. Are you denying that suicide bombers are a thing? Are you denying that it's okay in by Sharia law to push people off the roof because they're gay? That it's okay to be stoned to death for a woman to go out and put all these things? Are you telling me that that's not the case? Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. You know that's exactly what it is. And that's why you have to be so, well, no, that's not like, no. Get out of here. Get out of here. You know that's what it is. Asher Brown says, yeah, if you wage jihad and you die for the holy war, you get to go to heaven. No questions asked. No, apparently, Ashbro, that's what me and you are saying. But we're so stupid. We know nothing. We know nothing about jihad. We know nothing about Islam. We know nothing about the Quran. Or maybe we do.
Possible to make a moral error.
Listen again. It's impossible to make a moral error when you are a jihadist.
When you're a jihadist, right? If you die, it's good. If your family dies, it's good. If the infidel dies, it's good. This is a death cult. And we have been lying to ourselves, in the secular West, that there's some other logic, some other variable that explains this behavior.
There's not.
It's economics, it's politics. These are the assumption is that when you see people behaving in this extraordinarily destructive and psychopathic way, they must have been pushed there by some awful treatment that would explain it, right? This must be ordinary human rational behavior in extremis, right? These people have been so tortured by the occupation, by the apartheid state of Israel, by the open air prison of Gaza. I mean, these
hashtag BLM.
These phrases that are now, used reflexively in the media. I'm not saying life in Gaza isn't horrible. I'm not saying it's not intolerable. We can talk about that. But there's a layer of this phenomenon and of this behavior that we've been living with, most clearly since September 11, 2001, but it obviously precedes that, which is explained only by the religious ideology. Right? When people are doing the unthinkable, again, you can find so many cases where they're doing it without grievance, right? Where somebody drops out of the London School of Economics to go join the Islamic State for the pleasure of killing Yazidis and, raping their women, right?
That doesn't happen either? Again, you're getting defensive because I'm talking about your beliefs, but I'm not talking about your actions. Unless we are to say that there are no jihadists who love death, want to kill people and themselves, then you are attacking a straw man. I am not saying that all Muslims this, or all Palestinians this, or all Jews this, or all anything except for the jihadists, the violent jihadists. That is who I'm speaking of. That is who they are speaking of. So if you're thinking about you and your friends who happen to believe in Islam, you are not this is when we're talking just the last stream. When all the women on the panel were like, well, no, we don't think that way. Maybe you don't think that way. But how many times have you been an atheist in the face of a Muslim? The same amount of times as those girls have dated other girls.
And it's just, this is what was happening, ad nauseum, right? You had from 100 countries, right? So what we saw Hamas do in Israel last week is a subset. It's just another example of that same behavior. Yes, it has this local political, nationalistic struggle over territory context, but that's not the thing that explains the behavior.
It's
and
dogma.
We have to get our heads around that. We again, I'm not even talking about non-Muslim. I'm talking about all moderate Muslims. Desperately, the world waits in desperation for moderate Muslims to get their heads around the problem of jihad.
Yep. I mean, I personally would go a step further, and maybe the moderate Muslims out there be like, maybe we just pull it all back and get rid of religion. But I know that's too big of an ask. Bonzig said, if you believe all the info from Sam and what's on the news, then something's wrong. The propaganda has worked. Going with the ad hominems, where I didn't specifically cover the last time he was on this podcast and talking out of his ass. I didn't cover that multiple times. I didn't address that multiple times in multiple streams and multiple videos. You're just going to throw ad hominems? Cool. Goldlower said, Sam Harris kind of reminds me of the Charlie the Unicorn episode with Candy Mountain, but it's Moral Mountain. You're not going to win either way, brother. Rabbi Glickman says, when I say there's no such thing as a moderate Muslim, what I mean is that people like Mia Khalifa are not Muslims. I agree. Hey, we got Guam Tech in the building. Welcome to the party. Everybody should come to Discord, but if you're addressing this at me, you know that I'm doing a live show right now, right? Asherbath says, we need to ask why the Muslims are doing jihad. No, we don't need to, because it says right in their book. Do jihad.
And Eric, would you agree with Sam's assessment of the situation?
I disagree, first of all, with Constantine before I even get to Sam.
Excellent.
So,
The first person who points out what Sam does that is unforgivable, not what he says, what he does that is unforgivable, is going to get comment of the night.
you phrase this immediately as what's going on in Israel and Palestine. From the perspective of Hamas, what do you mean? It's all happening in Palestine, right? So the idea is that there's a European occupier sitting in Palestine. You have an open air prison. People are oppressed. It's completely unlivable. And resistance was taken against the European oppressor in Palestine. So I don't know what you're talking about.
That's from Hamas's perspective. Welcome to the party, Stephanie Miller. Welcome. So is there really a difference between extreme Islam and the ones that say they're peaceful? I've heard that they're all lying and the Quran says to kill those that don't believe in Allah. I'm just saying I've heard similar things. There's very strict rules and very strict laws for jihad. Hey, we got Harley in the building. Welcome to the party. Oh, so nothing happened on Jihad Day, so jihad is not a thing. Gotcha. Okay, all right.
So that perspective, for example, has to do with the language. So
well, he is talking about Hamas's perspective. He's saying this as someone from Hamas's perspective, that there is no such thing. From Hamas' perspective or the Palestinians' perspective? I don't know, but he's taking one of their perspectives. So I don't know that he's not the one calling them Europeans. He's saying that's what they're thinking. Shout out to Unwanted Foe. What is good? What is good? Said one of the lesser jihads can be translated to essentially convert or kill non-Muslims.
Bingo.
But keep going, Bonzig. This is just we all have the same wrong idea about the thing, and you're the only one who has the right answer.
As soon as the frame is in place, I can tell you what the argument is.
I said shit. It's me
like
too.
Looking at different opening tic-tac-toe moves. I've got all the games memorized, and so I just don't want to even participate as soon as I hear that, because of these different mindsets. Now, to Sam's point.
So before he goes there, I want to point out that I agree with Rabbi Glickman when he says this, but this is a logical fallacy. This is the no true Scotsman fallacy. By saying, well, you're not a real Muslim because this, that. And so I also agree with your notion that, there's laws and you can't just commit it. And so they can't call. But unfortunately, that is the same fallacy. And even if that technically, logically, philosophically might hold true, the fact is people do it. Whether they call it jihad or they call it hijab or they call it
I had a big disagreement in some sense with the way in which the new atheists took on the problem of jihad. And that is because it comes out of totalizing. Totalizing ideologies are really the problem.
Yup.
There's a North Korean totalizing ideology. There's a jihadi totalizing ideology.
So it doesn't have to always be religious, as we've seen with the leftists. That it doesn't have to be connected to one unfalsifiable truth. It's just a belief that you have that covers your entire that covers everything. That covers everything.
Sorry to interrupt. Just for clarity.
I've already said, no, they didn't. So just because people didn't do things on Jihad Day does not mean that jihad does not exist. That is a logical fallacy. That does not make sense. I didn't buy a Christmas tree today, but that doesn't mean that I've never bought a Christmas tree. I didn't buy a Christmas tree today, but that doesn't mean I don't celebrate Christmas. What the fuck are you talking about?
Clarity for these people who might not know. What does totalizing ideology mean, Eric?
Well, what I mean in this case is that there's an entire worldview which solves and addresses all of your issues.
I feel like a lot of Israelis and Palestinians would disagree with you, but maybe I'm just ignorant.
How should we structure a family? What is the purpose of life? What risks may be assumed? When may one kill? You have an entire worldview that is effectively incompatible with the outside world. All notions of tolerance, of coming up with, two people who don't really agree, but agree enough in order to.
Maybe you are talking current war 2023 October, but nobody said that when we're talking about jihad in general. I don't understand how that has anything to do with what we're talking about. Yes, Friday was supposed to be the global day of jihad, and nobody did shit. So you're saying that means jihad is not a violent thing that is dictated in Islamic teachings? You're not saying anything, bro. You're not saying anything.
Serve each other coffee, maybe marry into each other's families, whatnot. There is a sort of way in which you're open through moderation and through tolerance to the points of view of others within a relatively broad but still restricted spectrum.
So again, they're talking about, we are talking about this in a very narrow perspective. Asherbrow says, do you support a two-state solution or one state? So I would love for a two-state solution to be a solution. It seems from where I'm sitting, and again, I am not well read on this stuff. I just had a panel where I had other people come and tell me what's good. And obviously, I've been keeping up, but this is not my super area of expertise. But it seems like the two-state solution is not a solution. So instead of endless warring to try to accomplish this two-state solution, it seems to me like whoever gonna win just gonna have to go win. Harley said, jihad doesn't mean go out and kill non-believers. There's actually levels to jihad. There's rules and structures to it. Yes. And some of those rules and structures include killing yourself and other people. Is that not true? Like this isn't news, guys. This is old news.
This is outside of that spectrum. So the issue is not Islam to me. The issue is totalizing ideologies that provide all answers. And there aren't that many of them left, right? Like Soviet communism died off. It was a totalizing ideology. You see the art, the music, the cinema. You can spend your entire life in a Soviet mindset based on what was produced during that period.
But not all totalizing ideologies are the same.
No.
Facts. All ideologies are not the same. Hey, shout out to Unwanted Foe. Morty, come on. $6. Come on. Come on. He is not moving. All right, we got two. And a new sponsor of the stream, Unwanted Foe, giving this communion to knock Indy off the board. Well done, sir. Thank you. Let's run this back real quick.
Was produced during that period.
But not all totalizing ideologies are the same.
No, they aren't.
Right. So it's like,
but
the martyrdom completely changes the game theory, right? Like if Putin was a martyr, we would feel differently about the war in Ukraine.
Yep.
I promise. But I'm just trying to account for.
Let me drag you there.
So the first problem I have is that totalizing ideologies are dangerous because there's no way from outside to check them.
Yes.
So if there's an error, then you end up with whatever that error is, to the 10,000th power.
Again, because it's totalizing and it's dogmatic. Unquestionable.
Now, when you drop in this as a strategy, the next reason I can't really respond to what got said is that the language again that we use, like both sides. Oh, so what about Christian Arabs? Somehow they're not part of the Islamic Jihad or Hamas, but on the other hand, they may have sympathies with it. Or on the other hand, they may secretly hate it and say, how come we can't get better representation?
I definitely care about, on a human level, that those people are stuck in a very unwinnable situation. But I'm not sure how that's relevant to the conversation of trying to find some kind of solution, some kind of peace to the conflict.
Some of them may pine to live in Israel. As I lived in Israel for 2 years, and I had all sorts of crazy conversations. And the spectrum of Arab perspectives or Druze perspectives, or it's a much richer place. And I worry already about the both sidesing, because it ain't both sides. It's so.
And obviously, if you couldn't put two and two together, Eric Weinstein is in fact Jewish. Sam is what do they call it? Not his heritage. He is Jewish, but he's obviously an atheist.
Many different factions, and then in order to get at this, because the Israeli government will have to take action against the Hamas government, right? And so that is a both sides.
So let's talk about that,
Wait.
because you're arguing with the frame. So give us the frame the way that you think the frame should be.
Well, my first comment is that you're going to use words like Palestinians. You're going to use words like occupation, occupied territories. Somebody else might use Judea and Samaria. Somebody else might say Palestine. As soon as I know the language, I know what the arguments are going to be.
You already said that, bro.
This is not my language, and I don't believe these things, and I've agreed to be more or less silent on a bunch of things while there was a peace process, because peace processes are about BS to a certain extent. You have to lie through a peace process in order to get something at the end of it, and that failed. So, the first thing I'm going to say is I don't believe that this is an occupied people. I don't believe that the Arabs are under occupation. And that's going to sound crazy because you're not exposed to any perspective that sounds like that. So how could you ever come to that conclusion? You have groups of people who are offered a state who we are not listening to. They do not want the state that they are offered. They're offered a choice between a state and a chant.
And what do they choose? To the river, to the sea.
And if you know the chant, it's from the river to the sea. From the river to the sea is what they chose. You could have a state, or you could have a chant.
Again, if anybody wants to correct where what they are saying is wrong, I mean, I'm listening. But
And they want the chant. They are the tip of the spear in the global battle against Western hegemony, against an occupying European power in holy Arab land. And Western hegemony, they're not going to give up on
damn,
that
guys, not
as
one
a
more
collective
like.
political entity for
Just one more link. One more link, please.
a relatively modest, prosperous state trading with the occupier.
So Rabbi says, here's my question. Where would the Palestinians go since Israel wants the land? They would die. This is a war. There's only so much space. Two people can't be in the same space. For hundreds of years, they've been trying to figure out the configurations. It hasn't been working. I don't know where they go. That's the issue. Goldor said, from the river to the sea is from the Torah. It's the promised land. Well, I mean, I don't hear, I hear a lot of people who maybe don't respect the Torah as much using it. Well, they said there's bad actors in all religions, and unfortunately, they get all of the representation. Exactly! This is why religion is bad! Rabbi said, talking to each other, Bon Sigs, I don't care what they say. It's just a conversation now. That's all it's ever been. Same answer, bro. Winner takes all. If we're trying peace and we're not getting peace, winner takes all. What other option is there? When you have a better option, I'm gonna, hell yeah, Rabbi's got a great option. Fuck this war. I hate it. I hate that people are fighting. I hate that people are dying. But what is your alternative? What is the alternative? What is the alternative? What is the alternative? Asherbrow says, so Hamas was offered Gaza and the West Bank as a new nation, but they want the land from the river to the sea. Exactly. I mean, all right, you were offered this, and you don't want it. You want war. You want it all. So fine, then fight a war.
With joint economics, joint fate. That's very troubling to us because we have this idea of why wouldn't you want a state? You could have a state. You could be prosperous. You could send your kids to Purdue. And that's not easy for us. This is basically, if you think about motherhood, you don't think about Munchausen by proxy, right? Now, what do you do when you have a mother who comes to the hospital with a child who's continuously getting sick, and getting harmed?
Like maybe if they're going to a gender affirming clinic or something.
You have to ask, well, is it possible that the mother is harming the child? So you're about to see tiny children pulled out of rubble in northern Gaza. You're going to see it ad nauseum. You're going to see people rushing to the hospital. You're going to see mothers wailing. So we can talk about the whole thing about the martyrdom and how everybody prays that their family will be martyred. And you know what? Sometimes it's true. Sometimes you see on camera somebody saying, thank God they took my son, blah, blah, blah. But those are actually much more complicated things. Sometimes you turn the camera off and the person is crying because they know what they're supposed to say and they know what they're actually feeling.
So a dissonance between what they're supposed to say and what they're actually feeling. Where else has this concept come up where we all agree that it's terrible and horrible and wrong? The transgender dogma. All dogma is bad. It may not all be equal, but it is all bad.
So my problem with this is that this is so much more complicated than the discussion we're pre-programmed to have that is guaranteed to fail. The richness of this problem, where Hamas is effectively the mother in a Munchausen by proxy situation, right?
What? Munchausen by proxy syndrome? I feel like I've talked about that in another context. Maybe like the trans stuff. Are we seeing the dots being connected? Whether it's Christianity, whether it's trans, whether it's jihad. When you operate on dogmatic beliefs, bad things happen.
Children, you're damn straight you're going to be pulling babies out of that rubble because
Yup.
that's what Hamas wants. And Israel cannot figure out how to extricate herself from this dance of death.
Now that seems like cope, because from what I've heard from all you guys is that Israel not only has a very, very, very strong military, but if they were to launch a full offensive, it's not like the UN and is it UN or NATO or whatever, and the US wouldn't have their backs. So, well, they tried to do it, and fine, maybe they tried this two-state solution for the last 100 years, but it's not working. So now what? Now what? What happens if you're out in the wilderness and you're just nowhere and you try to start a fire? You're going to die without this fire. But I tried and it didn't work. Okay. So then you die or you make a fire. This is the same situation. You die or you make a fire. Asher Bell says, I'm fine with trans people, but I do not like them shoving it down my throat and hate the person. But I will say I only hate them due to being trans. So I don't hate any individual people. I hate this is, something that I will say all the time, that we should be attacking ideas and not people. The fact that someone is trans doesn't tell me anything about who they are as a person. That's the identity politics that is the problem with so many other things. I just put out a video from when Candace Owens was doing some thing, and some girl gets up on the mic and she's like, ready. She's like, I'm a black, trans, lesbian, this, that. Based on your philosophy, what do you know about me? What? Candace's like, I don't know. That tells me nothing, except for the fact that you have that your skin color and who you like to fuck. That means absolutely nothing. What we're talking about is ideology, the way you think and how strongly you adhere to believe in ideas that you are unwilling to question. That's the problem here. Eric Weinstein. What? Yep, this guy is, well, he's coping for he is, isn't he? That's interesting. I don't think he is. Isn't he saying that? Isn't he simping for or coping for Israel? Robert said, my point is that everyone who supports it based on a claim for God are doing so based on a fake prophecy. Okay, but the notion of a claim for God existing in the first place is the only way that you can base anything on a fake prophecy. Without this idea of a claim to God, there is such a thing as a God, then this doesn't happen. This cannot happen. Rational, moral people are unable to do these things without dogma.
Well, that's why we're here. That's what we're talking about. Right.
So what I'm trying to say is you don't get out of this. You have a very unconventional foe in Hamas and in totalitarian Islam and in Jihad and in ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And for some reason, mainstream media,
maybe he's not coping for anybody. Maybe he's just being base as hell and we're not seeing through it. Maybe. I don't know. Keep an open mind and let's just keep listening.
refuses to show us the images that they showed us during the Vietnam War through mainstream outlets. If you saw what I've seen, if you watched the Hamas videos,
make an argument. This isn't a I saw things that were horrible. Yes, there's horrible things going on in the world. We're aware of it. That's why you're here, sir. If you're just you're wasting time to just say, well, bad things are happening. And if you saw the things that I saw, then you'd feel a certain way. Make an argument or go away.
The ISIS videos, if you read Dabiq, if you did any of this stuff, you'd be sick.
No, a jihadi is he who follows jihad, which is a struggle or holy war. So a jihadi or a jihadist would be somebody that adheres to a jihad.
To your stomach, you'd be a changed person.
Didn't I already say hi to you? What's up, Doc McStuffins? Welcome to the party. I apologize if I didn't welcome you when you first came. Glad to see you.
And we don't have that. I remember that the night my parents turned off the TV during the Vietnam War. one of my earliest memories. I believe it was GI's heads on pikes carried by the Viet Cong. You're watching American severed heads on sticks. If you think about all the Pulitzer Prize winning photographs from the Vietnam era, right? You're watching a monk burned to death. You're watching a street execution right to the head. You're watching naked children with their clothes burned off from napalm. You didn't see Falling Man. The most famous picture from 9/11.
Bro, what is your argument? Why are you here? We all saw all of that. Why are you here?
In the United States, there is this layer that is determined to push a fiction to us, which is a transparent fiction about the general nature of Islam. Islam is complicated. You have to study it. There are multiple schools of thought beyond Shia versus Sunni versus Ahmadi. You could just in Sunni Islam, different schools of jurisprudence, which lead to totally radically different outcomes between the Salafists and the Hanafi adherents. And what we've done is we've come up with this childlike concept of an oppressed people and a religion of peace. And
well, I mean, the notion, the concept of an oppressed people is not childish. The way we apply it in America to Americans is childish. I agree that the religion of peace thing is bullshit, but oppression is a real thing. Let's not pretend that because a privileged college student thinks that they're oppressed, that there's no real oppression. Weird phrasing. All
of this stuff is unworkable, and it's all mind control, and it's all propaganda. And what my feeling is, and again, is I don't want to start the conversation from where I think you guys want to start it from.
Then start it wherever the hell you want to start it, bro. We're half hour into this video, and you have not said a thing yet.
I want to start from the fact that none of us are prepared to have this conversation because we haven't been exposed to it. We don't know what the real issues are.
Okay, we're not prepared. All right, thanks for hanging out, guys.
And if we take the terms that are handed to us, if we have the best and most intellectual conversation, it will still be completely morally
fine. Let me just disagree with the general thrust of what you said there, because much of what you said is true, but doesn't actually confound the argument that I'm making, which is that
nobody caught what Sam did, not said. There's something that Sam does throughout this whole thing. I want you to look for it, and if anybody can catch it, he definitely talks. Eric does talk like Zippy, but he's not as cool as you.
All of that complexity is true. There's the complexity of Islam. It's this variegated culture, and it interacts with cultural contingencies that have nothing to do with religion, right? So there are things that we would object to under Islam, like female genital mutilation, which doesn't have a really direct connection to theology, right? And yet it's correlated with the Muslim world, but it's not exclusive to the Muslim world, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all this hair splitting we can do. But there is a very simple core to this, right? The concept of jihad, the concept of martyrdom, the very clear.
You have a totalizing death cult. I get it.
Yeah, death to apostates, right? All of this is the clearest piece of code. This is like,
They don't say that. They don't say death to apostates. Just like there's no genderqueer in schools, right?
8 lines of code that every time you run them produce the same amount.
It's not the fact that it's the clearest piece of code, Sam. It's the fact that it has no repressor bound to it, to borrow a metaphor from DNA.
Okay, but
I thought he was going to bring a lot more, but I think Sam does a good job. As he, they kind of had their openings, and I think as they get into it, Sam is doing a little bit better because again, this is Sam's wheelhouse. Outside of his wheelhouse, he's worthless, useless. But good one, Doc McStuffins. And actually, yes, shout out to Doc McStuffins' birthday. Meehaw, first name Jack. Happy birthday from the Indian Jesus and the disciples. Asherbow says Israel has the upper hand. They can take Gaza easily, but cannot hold the land as Hamas will go into city guerrilla warfare. Maybe so. But if that's if that's where we are, then how is not taking Gaza helping anybody? That's what I want to know. That's a genuine question that I don't know the answer to.
So in Deuteronomy, we have repressor, bound to bad code, so the code doesn't run. The problem is that all the safeties are off the gun. You've got promoter rather than repressor for some collection of people. For some other collection...
Eric, explain that in a different way.
Sure.
It's too complicated.
It's not that complicated.
It's not that complicated for you, but it's too complicated for me to understand. And
You just went over this whole thing about how complicated all of this is and that we're simplifying things. You're like, oh, it's not that complicated. Shut up! Hey, shout out to Melted Mind Media. What is good? What is good? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Another awesome YouTuber. Just dropped a link to his channel. Got a brand new setup, which looks pretty dope. So definitely go check it out. Welcome to the party, brother.
therefore, for a lot of people watching. So explain it simpler.
Okay. We have code in Deuteronomy. A lot of the bad code in Islam comes from Judaism. So Christianity and Islam are two of our most popular offshoots. Mm-hmm. And bad code has an inheritance property that sometimes it permeates through the system if everybody agrees that the Old Testament is important.
Shout out to Oxlog First Name Mike.
Right. In Deuteronomy, I believe there's a passage. By the way, what you said before about it being Quranic, I believe you were actually referencing a hadith. I don't know if that's accurate about the ground.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear about that.
Yeah.
In Deuteronomy, there's a passage that says, for example, if somebody says, let's go worship gods unknown to our fathers, set upon them with a stone. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any record of Jews stoning an apostate, a proselytizing.
Anybody want to object? Any records of Jews stoning an apostate?
Proselytizing apostate. However, how you get that code not to run is that you come up with some justification. For example, too bad about the second temple being destroyed. If we don't have the second temple, then we can't convene the Sanhedrin. If the religious courts aren't enforced, then who decides whether this is just and unjust? So unfortunately, the code can't run. So we have got bad code that doesn't get run because it's blocked from running.
Yep.
And quite honestly, in many places in the world, you've got bad code that is blocked from running. And so I don't want to have a conversation about, you can read it right in the text. It's true, you can read it right in the text, but you have to think about the epigenetics. What is it that determines, does this code run or is this code blocked? So the problem is you have got a totalizing death cult with all the safeties off the gun for some subset of people. And then we're going to have this conversation about, are we going to be fastidiously accurate, in which case it'll take 17 hours and nobody will want to watch it? Or is somebody going to say, do the conservative thing to say, well, there's something's going wrong with Islam. And then you've got all the collateral damage of reasonable, normal people who are, a vice president for inventory at some company who happens to go to the mosque. And he's thinking like, what does this have to do with me?
So it sounds like he's saying, well, there's a lot to think about here. So while there's innocent people dying on both sides, then we need to really sit down and discuss the intricacies before we do anything. I'm okay with that not happening. I don't know what this means, so I'm not going to read it, but I don't know. Yeah, he's treading water here. He knows that Sam is understanding what he's saying, so he's trying to use these things to dance around an actual point. Again, he hasn't made a single point yet, and he's just poking at little things that Sam is saying without actually making any counterpoints.
And then you have got the weird issues about the sympathies, where you've got sympathies for completely insane positions from completely moderate people, including now, generically college students. College students are up for people firing automatic weapons into porta potties, having no idea who's inside. Is a mother, nursing a child inside the porta potty? Who cares? And to say, I stand with Palestine and show a hang glider for Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, in case anybody hasn't seen this, the day after the attack, a BLM Chicago posted this this meme, if you can call it that.
Black Lives Matter signs. Throughout the entire George Floyd thing, I was saying, don't support Black Lives Matter. Now, Black Lives Matter was a piece of genius called declarative marketing. I don't know if...
Oh, declarative marketing. That sounds similar to something that I talk about and tell you guys about all the time. Let's see if this fits what I would normally call semantic obfuscation.
If you've ever heard it. So we had products in the 70s called Gee, your hair smells terrific, or I can't believe it's not butter was the name of the product. So the name of the product is called Black Lives Matter. How can you disagree with that? You know, so Save the Adorable Puppy Dogs is what I would call a terrorist organization if I had to, because how can you disagree with Save the Adorable Puppy Dogs?
Yeah, Ashbro says the plan I see is Israel bombing Gaza, invading the land, and making the Palestinians into refugees, then refuse them re-entry back into Palestine when the war is over. Maybe. There's plenty of Muslim countries right in that area, though, so they can go there. Works for me.
We're deranged by language. We're not watching things in mainstream context that would make us sick to our stomachs. And
Semantic obfuscation.
we are becoming infused with a radical ideology through the Democratic Party that is as if it was liberalism adjacent. Like you've got radical left-wing death cults that want revolution for the oppressed, that have a seat at the Democratic table at the same time that somebody
Later on, Rabbi, good to see ya.
like Sam or myself, traditionally a Democrat, is completely unwelcome. And you know, my claim is that you're seeing an echo of this madness of jihadism inside mainstream American campuses.
Yep.
And there's one thing that I would like to add as well is that my grandfather was an Arab. My grandfather was Venezuelan, but he originated from Lebanon. His surname was Saud.
Before he goes on, I'm not really sure what he's talking about specifically with the jihad happening on college campuses, unless he's specifically talking about what I'm talking about and the trans stuff, because that would fit. But I don't think that's what he's talking about.
And he was Coptic Christian. And he was a doctor, and when he retired, he became a historian, and his books won prizes in his third language. And we went to Israel on holiday. Now, I'm a Catholic. All our family are Catholic. And they said to my grandfather, would you like to come to Israel with us? Bear in mind, this is a historian, this is a learned man. And he said, as long as I live, I will never set foot on Israeli soil. I will never put money in an Israeli pocket. And I think the other aspect to this conversation that we're not addressing is the hatred that exists on both sides. And we misuse that word hatred a lot. I hate peanuts. I hate the opposition football team.
I hate Dogma. Not in the same way that he's talking about, oh, I hate peanuts. I hate the obscene. I hate Dogma. What it did to me personally, what it's done to this world, and what it's done to the people around me. I hate it.
This is hatred to its core. And what do you do with two groups of people, some of whom hate each other in its truest sense? Can you resolve that?
No. As we've seen over the last century. If this is going on for 6 months and people are calling for, just all out war, then that'd be a very different thing. We are 100 years plus deep into this.
It's worse than hatred, and it's simpler than Eric, you're making it out. It's not.
Shout out to Dick.
Granted, there's a ton of complexity, but the complexity isn't the main problem here, right?
I agree.
It's worse than.
I agree. There is a lot of complexity here, but that is not the main problem. It's the simplicity is the problem.
Hatred in that, and again, I really do think this is a failure of empathy on the part of secular, rational people. They just can't get their heads around what it would be like to actually believe in paradise, right?
And this is something that, coming from having been brought up a Catholic, I understand the notion of at least a Christian heaven, but Christian heaven is like the pregame. If we're talking about Islam martyrdom heaven. It's not a reasonable thought. There's no way you can get there without dogma. You just can't. Zippy says, after 100 years, it's time. Palestine needs to go. Again, I don't see what the other option is. What is the other option? Asherbath says, Israel wants the Palestinians out of the area. That is why they make life so hard for them. Yep. CT said, it's nice to hear Sam Harris talk about something other than Trump. I used to listen to him more before the TDS. I said, shit, me too. His podcast was amazing. I remember one time he had a guest on. They were talking about how time actually works, and they got super heady. And it was years ago. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was so cool. And then, 2015 comes around, and Trump comes around, and everything becomes about politics. And at first, it was a lot of Hillary. Then it became all Trump. And like I said, since then, this is the first time I'm hearing him speak about anything else at all. Exactly.
They've never met. At most they've met people who pretend to believe in paradise. They just don't know what true belief is like, and
they really don't. Hey, shout out to Xander Crew. Oh my goodness. We are pulling him up for the $10 super chat. Oh, all right. Shout out to Xander Crew. Let's get the communion going here. What? It's right here. Right here. Come on, eat it. What's wrong? Yeah. And then while we're at it, let's give him the one from Unwanted Foe and Indie Film. Thank you, guys. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. What does Xander say? I agree, man. Dogma is the true enemy of humanity. Anytime you believe something so much, you are willing to ignore its negatives, flaws, and holes. You are a mindless drone. If you're willing to kill for it, what else are you willing to do? I don't understand what's wrong with this statement. Thank you, Xander.
And therefore they can't kind of sympathetically run this particular piece of code and see its perfectly rational implications. I mean, how would you live if you believed that there was nothing more important than waging war for the one true faith and dying in the process? The only straight path to paradise was to be martyred, right? It's the only thing that bypasses the resurrection and all of the uncertainty of whether you're going to get there. It's just like you're just whisked past the velvet rope and you're in the bottle room with God waiting for your friends and family to arrive, right? People can't understand what it would be like to actually believe this, and so they think there must be some other motive. So when you read an issue of Dabiq, right, the Islamic State's highly professional newsletter or magazine,
Great production quality.
It was shockingly good. I mean, that's
Right.
when I commented on it. It was actually a very bad sign that it was as well written and as well copy edited as it
They
was.
know their stuff.
It was because it shows you the quality of the people they were recruiting from Europe mostly. But it's, and I disagree with the analogy, the genetics analogy you ran, because this is a much shorter piece of code. I mean, the Quran is a much more unified code. I mean, the Quran, there's much less self-contradiction in the Quran than you find in the Bible.
Yep.
Right? I mean, the Bible just simply does not present a unified message, and it's very easy to pick and choose. And especially if you're a Christian, you wind up with Jesus in his better moods, and you could live a completely benign pacifist sort of life.
And I think most of you Christians do. I would never argue that most of you Christians don't live a completely benign life. So Asherbow asked if I'm an atheist. Yes, I was born a Catholic. I was confirmed in the Methodist Church, and never had a thought that anything besides my faith could be true. And because I wanted to get closer to God and learn more about my religion, I started reading more of the Bible than what they were teaching in church and in Sunday school and in CCD and stuff. Simultaneously, I was going to college for psychology and philosophy. And so with all that mixed together, I found out it was all bullshit. But I do think that there are some amazing values that come out of religion that we absolutely cannot get rid of. Because that's what happens when, or what we see happens, is the complete loss of any foundation. So I do think that there's absolutely great things in religion. It's just the dogmatic part that I hate. The fact that you can't question. The fact that, we don't know the answer, but we know the answer. And again, when we talk about politics before the Hamas attack, I'll say whether you believe that there's a man in the sky or that a man can turn into a female, that is a dogmatic belief. If you hold on to that, knowing what we know, that is a dogmatic belief. CT said, Ian talks about this all the time on Timcast. People claiming a faith that they don't practice the tenets of the faith. Lots of hypocrites in religion. Yep. Somebody said, hey, not really understanding this, dude. Me neither. We're doing our best. But if the Palestinians would understand they have the same enemy as Israel, this would end quicker and cleaner. What do you mean the same enemy? Oh, you mean in Hamas? But that's the complexity I think Eric is talking about, the guy in the white shirt. That they're like, it's complex and it's this, and you think it's all these people. But there's a lot of Palestinian Muslims who are not waging violent jihad, who are not part of Hamas, who are not any of this, but vote for this stuff and support this stuff. If you ask your average like Saudi whether they think it's okay for gay people to be executed, for apostates to be executed, they don't want to do it, but they're fine with it happening. So I mean, it's just I get a little, skeptical as to whether or not these people have any interest in thinking about things in any other way, because they are very open about the fact that, hey, this is what we think. We know that we're right because God told us, so nothing that you can say or do will ever make us think anything else. Harley says people can't what? Because it doesn't make sense the way people explain it. We have more bad teachers than good ones. Yeah, I guess that goes all around, doesn't it? Harley said the Quran actually teaches Muslims to respect Jews and Christians. It also teaches them to read the Quran as well as the Torah and the Bible to have a full understanding of their beliefs. But again, as CT was just saying about Ian, how many people actually do that? And then how many people have what I would, let's not even go there. How many people interpret it to allow them to do violent things, or even not violent, but just hurtful and oppressive and not nice things? A lot. Xander said some religions would actually be great if people were actually practicing the faith honestly. But most people who claim any religion do not live by the words of their own fable. It's laughable. Yep. But, I'm the bad one because I don't adhere to any one of them.
Or you could be, a religious lunatic who's dangerous and divisive. You can sort of have it however you want to have it. It is much harder under Islam. It's not to say this is impossible. And as I said earlier,
Islam is much better designed.
On Saturday?
They absolutely need to find their repressor hardware to figure out how to make jihad just a matter of just war and just war theory, as the Christians have it more or less. And
yeah, Xander, I was gonna put this up as a poll before, but I know that I wouldn't get actual answers. But I was gonna ask that if you're a Christian and you genuinely thought that God was telling you to go kill your neighbor, why wouldn't you do it? Genuinely, why wouldn't you do it? That's all that's happening. Their God is telling them, go do this, and they're doing it. So unless you are going to hear God's voice in your ear and say, nah, I'm good, then you have no place condemning Hamas at all. I said, shit, me too. We have to get rid of all of it. Now, I don't want to take it away from people. I just would rather just build a better world where it falls out of people needing it. But I'm right there with you. Asherbow says, I'm an atheist too. Hey, we are in the minority here. Despite the fact that I'm a strong anti-theist, we are in the minority here. I'm an atheist too, but I still worship my ancestors as part of tradition. I would even pray to the Buddha for wealth if I'm visiting a temple. There you go. That's how a lot of us live. That these spiritual ideas are not like, we're not vampires. It's not like if you talk about spirituality or have a grace or gratitude or anything that we're going to burn away or something. Zenner says insanity that we all live in a world with adults that collectively force a Santa-like belief on the rest of us and kill each other for which Santa is the best. Yep. Why wouldn't you question it? Asking the question is the only way to learn and understand. Okay, so then you question it, and he's like, no, for serious. I'm really God, and I'm really telling you, you have to go kill your neighbor right now. Would you do it or would you not do it? Context is, I feel like that last question is why religious writings exist. People could claim anything was in the name of God. The writings would hopefully help mitigate some of the bullshit. Unfortunately, I agree with you. Unfortunately, the way that it's written is so vague that every single individual has a different interpretation. There are no two Muslims who view Islam in the same way. There are no two Christians who view Christianity the same way. Go down the list. Go down the list. It's not possible.
And spiritual struggle. That would be great. They have to figure out how to do it. It's damn hard to do it, especially when you look at the example of the Prophet Muhammad, who's not a guy who got crucified and told everyone to wait for the end of the world. He was a conquering warlord. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like having Genghis Khan as your savior. I mean, it's just not a
by the sword, right?
Islam is much better designed, Sam.
For jihad, for holy war.
Yes. W for Sam. Let's run that back.
Islam is much better designed, Sam.
For jihad, for holy war, and for endless conflict.
It's not a morally normative observation. It had the opportunity to look at Orthodox Judaism and Christianity, and it became a piece of code that is incredibly difficult to deal with, even down to the engineering of a priority of operations. So I forget how it works, that you have the chapters, the surahs.
Yeah. They're the last ones that abrogate the other ones. Yes, but
right.
the more violent ones abrogate the
contradictions. But you also have an order of operation. So, as a piece of design, we can marvel at Islam, but you still have two very different traditions. One clerical, one more akin to Protestantism, of a direct relationship to the code. In Sunni Islam, you do have multiple schools of jurisprudential thought. Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to get at is you became fixated on the fact that normal, ordinary Americans, median Americans, cannot figure out how to talk about the problems that come out of totalitarian jihadi ideology.
Well, worse than that, I mean, it's to the point you just raised about what's happening on college campuses. We've got the most privileged and ostensibly well-educated people in our society, students right now, today.
I'm very interested to where this is going to go, because Sam is very much ideologically aligned with these college students. But as Rabbi brought up before, they're very tribalistic and dogmatic.
At Harvard and Stanford, who are signing open letters in support of the murder of infants in their cribs, because.
But aren't you specifically the one on this very podcast that talked about how dead babies wasn't really a big deal in the context of geopolitics? Yikes.
We're in support of message killing. Let's be very specific. It's not murder and it's not the number. What? Message killing is different than regular killing.
What? No. Message killing is different than regular killing. Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
Message killing is when you engage in an act and you make it cinematic and you make it hurt, and you make it psychologically so disturbing that you amplify power of each death, right? Saddam was an incredible practitioner of message killing. When you think about Luca Brasi, in The Godfather.
I can understand the notion that this message killing, where you're doing it in such a way to make the death more impactful, that definitely does exist. But that doesn't make regular killing any better. Harley said the problem is in Islam is not the Quran. The Quran is written clearly and direct. The differences the differences rely on who is teaching the hadiths, which is separate from the Quran. Well, wherever the problems lie, they are there.
Showing up with a vest with a fish in it, nobody
Thank you, Zabi.
knows how to read the message. You have kids on college campuses who are
Trancing themselves.
supportive of message killing, and you think about how do you deliver the maximal amount of pain to a father? Like,
Okay,
do
but these are the same people who are whinging about microaggressions, and they need safe spaces.
I mean, I agree, Sam, but aren't you with them?
They need trigger warnings. They think words are violence. I mean,
no, they don't. They don't think any of that, Sam.
They don't think words are violence. What is this fucking conversation?
There was no woke ideology.
That better not be the end of the sentence.
You could not tie your shoes if you imbibed wokeism. It's such a contradictory collection of things that don't make sense.
Agreed. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, particularly on college campuses. What are you talking about?
Michael
did
Malice
think
said
those
on our
things,
show
yeah.
recently something that I think is not untrue, which is
Shout out to Michael Malice. If you are not familiar, definitely go check him out.
that these people don't use language to communicate, they use it to manipulate.
That's right.
Ooh,
right.
based. They don't use language to communicate. They use it to manipulate. Another way to say semantic obfuscation. Find me a video that talks about a problem in the world, at least in America, that doesn't boil down to either dogma or semantic obfuscation or a combination of both. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. 70 Miller says, I feel like the Palestinians only know what's told, don't know what it is. Hamas, guys, commas and periods, please. I feel like the Palestinians only know what's told, don't know what that is. Hamas told that the aid ain't sent, or that Hamas that hit the hospital. I wonder what a lot of them would do if they knew.
However, one of the things that always worries me about our space is we critique others and we don't model and we don't talk about how to think. And we've spent 40 minutes, I've asked both of you how to think about this issue. We are nowhere near there. So let's try. You both put some ideas forward about how you see this problem. How do we think about this, Sam? If you're right, let's just for the sake of argument,
Okay, well, I
this
have
is
an
all
answer
about
for you.
jihadism.
I have an answer for you, but let me preface it by saying that one, I'm not an expert in any of the relevant areas that will give me confidence in this answer.
This is the internet. It's never stopped anyone.
Yeah. So I'm not like, so I'm
Have
very,
you been on Twitter? Sam?
yeah, not much recently. So I'm very happy that I'm not in charge here.
Yes.
So it's like, so I can say this knowing that I have absolutely no responsibility to actually make this kind of decision. But what I think we in the West, however you want to conceive it, should do is recognize that we are perpetually at war with aspiring martyrs. Right? We're at war with jihadis. Now, how many people fitting that description actually exist in the Muslim world is as yet undetermined.
So let's revisit that after we have the comment of the night. The comment of the night from Unwanted Foe. Punctuation is important. It's the difference between helping your uncle jack off a horse and helping your uncle jack off a horse. Comment of the night. Comment of the night. Well done, sir. Ashrabal says, maybe we need to unify the Muslim thought. Get a leader that teaches get a leader that teaches followers to be moderate. Dogma that does not call for jihad. Moderate and dogma are incompatible. There is no moderation in dogma. That's what makes it dogma. The fact that it's all or nothing is the problem. So to say you want, that's like saying, well, maybe we just want to have like a nice type of terrorism. Can't turn that button off. Let's try that one again. We should have a nice type of terrorism. What? That doesn't exist. We can't have moderate dogma. That's not how that works. I mean, that would be nice. That would be amazing. What we need is to just be mature human beings who look at different values from different places, whether it's from the Quran or the Hadith or the Torah or the Bible or Buddhist teachings or the Jains or the Hindus or anybody else. What ideas are good? Let's follow those ideas because they are good and for no other reason. Let's follow good ideas because they are good. We don't need any more reason than the fact that they are. then I don't need anybody to tell me that it's a good idea in order to understand that it's a good idea. Well, actually, I might, but I mean, I don't need anybody to dictate that it is in fact a good idea for me to see that if a good idea is working, that we must continue using that good idea. There's no authority needed to live by good values. Shut up.
Right, but it's more than we should be comfortable with, and still most Muslims do not fit that description, obviously.
Oh yeah, I want to run that back because we're getting a lot of talk about all Palestinians and all these people and all those people and all that, which nobody was talking about.
Fitting that description, that we are perpetually at war with aspiring martyrs, right? We're at war with jihadis.
We are at war with jihadis. Harley says jihad is one of the pillars of Islam. Asking people to throw away an entire part of their religion will not bode well for anybody. Yup. One more time. Let's
actually at war with aspiring martyrs, right? We're at war with jihadis. Now, how many people like fitting that description actually exist in the Muslim world is as yet undetermined, right? But
they're there. And they are using the words of the Hadith and the Quran to do horrible, horrible things in the name of God.
It's more than we should be comfortable with, and still most Muslims do not fit that description, obviously, right?
Agreed.
And then there are kind of concentric circles of decreasing support for the project of jihad. But we have to recognize that we're at war with jihadism. It's in whatever guise, whatever organization or non-organization it exists in.
I gotta say, I hope this doesn't come off as like scoldy or whatever, because I absolutely do not mean it that way. But I'm very surprised how much support for Islam we're getting right now, as you know, given recent events. It's very surprising to me.
And we should
tell them that
we should be killing jihadis, right? That we're not going to negotiate with jihadis. We're not going to live peacefully with jihadis.
And not because we don't want to, but because they don't want to.
When you raise your hand and you say, I'm a jihadi, that should make your life much more dangerous, officially, from the point of view of the Israelis, the CIA, anyone who's part of this project.
And also, it should not be the opposite, that if you don't raise your hand and say that you're a jihadi, that you are in danger. That's not the world I want to live in. Golder said the irony is, what are jihadis at war with? He doesn't want to talk about that part. They're at war with Western, with Western, what we would call Western, like just deviations from the religion. No. I said this is annoying. How is talking about Islam, Islam like this? This is clear that he doesn't know enough about Islam to be saying this. If you think so.
But then we're back to Dresden. This is why I brought it up.
We're back to Dresden. I think this mostly should be covert. I don't think we need to take credit for this. I don't think the Israelis should say we dealt with the problem over here, and the U.S. should say we dealt with the problem over here.
Covert, or do you mean clandestine?
How are you distinguishing those?
Clandestine means secret. Covert means deniable.
I'm not sure I understand all that you're.
When the CIA undertakes a covert operation, the idea that if discovered, it will be denied, and that the links to the sponsor will be severed so that it cannot be traced back to the CIA. So, in other words, it's a pretty big distinction. I just didn't know whether you were.
I don't know. I don't know if it's important in this case, but
I don't think it is.
This is an idea that doesn't originate with me. I think I first encountered this with the war correspondent and journalist Robert Kaplan. Maybe I think it might even be before 9/11. He wrote on this, but just the idea that we need to. That all of this has to be public, all of this has to be demonstrative, all of this has to be framed by speeches.
Well, that's all it has to do with the military industrial complex. That has nothing to do with the philosophical aspect of what is jihad and what are they at war with and who's right and who's wrong and who owns the land. That has a lot to do with money. So, I mean, that seems like kind of a separate issue.
That we need to declare, we're going to go to war in Iraq, right? You know, we're going to go to war in Afghanistan.
Yeah, again, that was all driven by money, not by religion. I mean, money is its own religion, but you know what I mean.
I mean, if my thinking about anything has changed since 9/11, I was never a supporter of the war in Iraq. I was never a critic of the war in Iraq. I never knew what to think about the war in Iraq, except I noticed that it seemed like a catastrophic distraction from the war in Afghanistan, which I absolutely did support.
Okay, I was gonna say that makes sense, because I'm gonna be like, you were definitely like, we need to take these people out because there's no reasoning with them. But okay, if he's saying, you know, he didn't want to be in Iraq, he wanted to be in Afghanistan, that's a little bit different. Somebody says they want to kill everyone that does not believe like them. They have point blank said that. So why is he making this so difficult? I really don't know. I really don't understand. It's fascinating, honestly.
And which was, you know, a hopeless failure, it certainly seems. But so if my thinking has changed about anything, it's the idea that...
Yeah, shout out to Jerkalani. This is what she was saying. Maybe not exactly, but within Islam. Ashrabah says, maybe the Pope should call for a crusade and reform the kingdom of Jerusalem, where the Christians are the dominant power in the Holy Land. Sounds better than American dollars and American boots.
We can do this project of nation building, that, like, by analogy with what we did with, you know, post World War II with Germany and Japan, which are miracles of resurrection, really. I mean, look at the enemies we had in Germany and Japan, and look at the state of the world now, right? It's just the idea that they are our friends and collaborators and have been for as long as, you know, we've been alive.
There's only one reason why that's possible. Can anybody guess what I'm about to say? That we're not dogmatic nations.
It's an amazing reboot of civilization after its near destruction. The idea that we can accomplish that in the Middle East and accomplish that in a Muslim culture just because we think everyone must want freedom on some level, must want to run the same democratic code as we do, and, you know, dye their fingers and say they voted.
It's just naive. It's just naive, and it speaks to what I think it was Sam or whoever said that the average secular Westerner cannot even grasp the idea of what these people believe as paradise. And I think that has a lot to do with it, because even though a lot of people consider themselves Christian, by and large, they're secular people.
I'm much more pessimistic about that project ever being fulfillable in the lifetime of anyone hearing this than I was. And so I think we should be very circumspect about owning anything, because the other thing is that because all of this is seen through a religious lens on the other side, and it's all a matter of sanctities and their trespass as far as the eye can see. So you bring in infidel troops, even with the best of intentions, to do anything good, and it's a sacrilege worthy of the murder of non-combatants, right? So many people subscribe to this worldview beyond just jihadists that you just...
Yeah, and I would say you can't force it out of people either, as you know, just an opportunity to speak as, you know, my atheist position. That, again, if anybody was confused, I'm not trying to rip God away from anybody. Part of my goal here with this channel is to build a world where people just don't feel the need for a God anymore. We all just live by these values, the good ones that are good, because they're good, because we want to live in a society with good values.
The project is over with the best of intentions even before it starts. So I think, again, this is, and I say this as someone who doesn't know all that I'm getting wrong here, at least pragmatically. Like, I don't know, in terms of covert or clandestine operations, how you go about killing jihadists wherever they exist. we should get as good as we can get at that. We should get as good as we can get at that. And so the leaders of Hamas in Qatar, those guys, the clock should be ticking on those guys.
It
right?
is.
Yeah. So
wait, there's a leftist Indian Jesus? What? You have two so far pretty decent, just waiting to get. What? What are you talking about? Goldner said, especially with people who don't believe in your version of a God character. Yep, it's speaking on what Harley said. Yeah, it's very personal. It's very individualistically personal.
But that's the most important piece from my point of view. Jihad, as a job description, jihadism has to be fatal.
But these people aren't cowards. These people who organize this expect to die. So one of the things that we say is
we should fulfill that expectation.
They're cowardly. It's not true.
I would never say that.
No one has said that. Eric, let's stop arguing with stuff that's not being said.
As the old joke goes, Sam, what's the difference between a moderate Muslim and a jihadi? The harassment of his sister at an Israeli checkpoint.
Von Zig, if you want to do a debate on Monday, we can definitely do that. We're already 2 hours into this show, so we're not going to start a debate now. But if you want to do that, definitely let's talk. And I'm down, absolutely down for that.
Problem is, you can't just go around killing jihadis, because a lot of people express support for jihad who are never going to pick up a gun or strap themselves to the.
What? You can't kill jihadis who are killing people because other people who are not jihadis and not killing people support the jihadis that are killing people. What? Am I stupid? Did I miss that?
Jihadi. The harassment of his sister at an Israeli checkpoint. The problem is, you can't just go around killing jihadis, because a lot of people express support for jihad who are never going to pick up a gun or strap themselves to the.
You can't kill an evil dictator, because there's people who like evil dictators, and they're not going to kill anybody. So you have to worry about the sensitivities of people who like terrorists. What the fuck are you talking about?
That's a distinction I'm making. I mean, there are people who the other very depressing thing is that we have poll results going back now decades, when you ask Muslim communities, not just in the Muslim world, but in the West, what's your level of support for suicide bombing in defense of Islam, right?
Oh, that doesn't happen, guys. Remember, that doesn't happen.
The numbers are awful, right? And so,
like I said, I'm down. Just put me in contact.
That's not what I'm talking about. The people who are actually deciding to be jihadis. They're going to get up tomorrow morning and their goal, their job.
So we're talking about all Muslims and all Palestinians, right? Just in case you didn't hear it.
That's not what I'm talking about. The people who are actually deciding to be jihadis. They're going to get up tomorrow morning. The numbers are awful, right? And so that's not what I'm talking about. The people who are actually deciding to be jihadis. They're going to get up tomorrow morning and their goal, their job is, how do I kill infidels? How do I kill Jews?
Islam start?
What was that?
When did suicide bombing in Islam start?
This is not. We don't have to talk about the Tamil Tigers.
I'm telling you,
it's not. It's a tactic. Yes,
the Beirut barracks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're talking about a relatively recent phenomenon.
Yeah, but bombs are a relatively recent
there
phenomenon.
was the golden age of hijacking before that. I'm not making any excuses for it. I'm trying to say that you're talking about something of such consequence.
I really want to know why it's important. Why he's shifting. Because I may be very ignorant to the point that he's making, but it seems very consequential to me. Let's run it back a little bit. Then we're not going to get to the whole thing.
This is not. We don't have to talk about actually. And so that's not what I'm talking about. The people who are actually deciding to be jihadis. They're going to get up tomorrow morning and their goal, their job is, how do I kill infidels? How do I kill Jews?
Islam start?
So he's talking about the making the distinction between people who have a certain belief and people who are doing specific actions. Well, when did self-deletion bombing start? Do you have a point, or are you just trying to go left?
What was that?
When did suicide bombing in Islam start?
This is a relatively recent
there was
phenomenon.
the golden age of hijacking before that. I'm not making any excuses for it. I'm trying to say that you're talking about something of such consequence. The idea that we should, if I take covert, that we should have a an official policy of trying to identify people who are jihadi, whatever that means, which is
Again, notice that he's not giving his own points. He's just saying, Sam, you're wrong. You're wrong. Sam, you're wrong. We're wrong, Sam. Sam, no, you're wrong. Okay, then say the right thing then.
very
They
complicated.
identify themselves, right?
Sam,
they literally move to Syria.
I had a friend in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who you would have identified as a jihadi. And he said to me, once you go to Israel, we will never be friends again. We will never speak. I will have to hate you, blah, 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 blah. He was the one who told me about the hadith. He says, remember that this is the tree that is the tree of the Jews that will hide you when the earth cries for your blood. It's an incredible mindset. You and I are allied on that. It's a mindset that Americans have difficulty thinking through. But
How is this relevant? You're just saying things. Address the conversation, right? I mean, coping hard for progressive, and Sam is the fucking TDS guy. Weinstein is the anti-woke guy. How is this? This ain't mathin'. Shout out to Guam Tech. Good to see you, brother. Good to see ya. Golders said he's basically saying, why are you basically calling all jihadis suicide bombers? That's literally just dumb. That's the long and short of it. That's the long and short of it. I'm not really sure. Do any of you guys know because before they mentioned it, something about trees and like, well, one tree. Do you guys know what specifically we're talking about with that? I'm not too familiar.
you're talking about, when you talk about the decision boundary of which jihadis to kill.
Yeah, so err on the side of conservative, right? I'm just saying we have to recognize we're in a hot war.
Sam, I think this is the same problem that you're having with Trump and other things, which is you are being invited into the abyss.
Okay, how?
No, you're not understanding. But wait, let me just clarify what I'm recommending here, because if you're not understanding it, the audience isn't understanding it. What I'm saying is much more conservative, at least in my view, with respect to collateral damage and the ethics of warfare, than what is likely to be happening. Certainly, what I think is likely to happen in Gaza. Right? I think we should.
You want a lot of targeted surgical stuff.
Hold on. Two things. First of all, let's let Sam finish. And the second thing is, Eric, I want to hear a positive proposition from you, because you're kind of positioning yourself in a critique place from which it's much easier to operate. So let Sam finish his point, and then I want to hear from you what you think we should do, because otherwise it's kind of asymmetrical.
Right.
So
I agree. Golden said supposedly there's a lineage tree back to Moses or Abraham or something fake like that. Basically an incest chart. Good to know. More great wholesome material out of religion.
go, Sam.
So our progress morally as a civilization, especially in the West, as a global civilization, but especially in the West, has been on many fronts. But one crucial front is that we have become more and more uncomfortable in taking innocent life, however defensively, when we wage war.
I'd say that's true in general. Like, we get all up in arms, justifiably so, that Obama was the Obama in chief. But that's very different than the type of warfare that we saw before that like drone warfare and shit like that. So with him so far,
right? So collateral damage is that phrase is a euphemism that hides just the ghastliest outcomes, where you have children orphaned and children blown up, and every permutation of that horror. And because we've become more and more transparent to ourselves in how we wage war, we are increasingly less and less capable of waging war the way we did in World War II and Vietnam, and I think that's
weak men.
That's a good thing. It's a good thing until it isn't, right? I mean, I can imagine us getting into a war where we have to finally say, "Fuck it." We have to roll back our moral compass to.
Yeah, like what if? I mean, we're going into speculation wildland here, but what if Russia and China team up and literally invade the U.S.? There's no people my size are gonna have to fight. We don't have to fight. I'm not trying to do that. And you trying to go to war? So he definitely has a point here.
1945, because this enemy is hiding behind so many beautiful blonde-haired little girls all those girls are going to die. Otherwise, we all die, right?
Again, phrasing, bro. Phrasing.
So like that's conceivable to me, but I certainly hope we don't have a future like that. And so I think we should have a bias toward being more and more compassionate, more and more scrupulous, more and more aware of how intolerable it is for, in this case, completely innocent families in Gaza to have 500-pound bombs dropped on their heads, right? I mean, it's completely unacceptable. The details are unacceptable. And I don't share your view that if we just saw more of the imagery, that would help us calibrate here, because the imagery is so provocative. The imagery of a dead baby being pulled out of rubble is so provocative. It's impossible to think.
Oh, no. Oh, no. You think they're just going to... Oh, no. Goldner said people who support Israel instead of a ceasefire right now don't know they're advocating for World War III and get all the UAE getting big mad. Yep. But again, at the same time, it's just got to get done. I'm not saying I side with Israel. I'm looking at the conflict. And again, this is not my area of expertise. So this is a very simplistic view of the actual conflict. But again, a ceasefire, looking for peace, two-state solution, all this stuff has been constantly been worked out. And it's not working. How many times do you try to achieve the same goal with people who openly state that they're not looking to achieve that goal with you, that they would rather die than achieve that goal before you say, okay, I guess this goal is not, in fact, a solution?
About what should happen in the world on the basis of that data point, right? That doesn't guide you, that just confounds you. And so I think what I'm arguing for, and again, I don't understand the practicalities of this. I mean, we need to bring in, Delta Force and the CIA and people who actually know how you do things on that front to know what's possible. But I think, yes, anyone who joins a jihadist organization who's in the business of waging jihad, right? That should be a death sentence. That should be suicide, right? We should figure out how to make that within the
What's Lukid? Member of Lukid? Not familiar. The governing party where? The governing party is blaming Russia for backing Palestinians is a full circle manufactured, and they said that Russia will pay. It's all the world's a stage, guys. All the world's a stage.
The possibilities here. We should figure out how to make that so.
And
I mean, so we have our friend Douglas Murray, who we both love, and who's incredibly courageous and wise on this particular front. He's walking around saying that anyone who supports Hamas, right, even just anyone who gets out on the sidewalk and stands on one of these signs, as they have in this week, supporting what happened in Israel, those people should lose their citizenship and be evicted from the UK, right? And I try to map that onto your free speech concerns in the US. How practical is that? How ethical is that?
My free speech concerns.
Yeah.
Well, just so you know, guys, Hamas is a proscribed terrorist organization in the UK.
Yeah.
Therefore, to express support for it is a crime.
Yeah. Okay, but like try to map that onto the American context.
Sure.
Right? We've got stand.
Okay, he's gonna try to map that on. You map that onto the American context. You're the guy who's got it all figured out. Just say the thing. I said, okay, now try this. Try to think about this concept. Just say the thing.
Stanford students who are effectively those people, right? Not only are we kicking them out of Stanford, which I could sort of support. I mean, there's more to talk about there, but I mean, there's a certain form of cancel culture that would make some sense to me at this moment.
So I think they're talking about people who are openly supporting Hamas from specifically Stanford and Hamas getting kicked out of the school. I don't necessarily agree with that unless you're specifically saying something against the law, like if you're inciting violence, if you're inciting something like that, then that's different. But I don't think you should be kicked out of school. That being said, people get kicked out of school for way less than that.
Moment. But on Douglas's account, we should just send them to Gaza,
Who?
right? Just drop them in Gaza and say, good luck. This is what you wanted. This is your worldview.
This is a great idea. This is a great idea.
But on Douglas's account, we should just send them to Gaza, right? Just drop them in Gaza and say, good luck. This is what you wanted. This is your worldview.
Queers for Palestine, getting on the next flight to Palestine.
Okay, that's
not gonna like what they find.
When you're talking about extreme derangements of our civil society and our politics and our way of life.
It's so crazy that he brings up derangement. It's so crazy. But this is what I need you guys to see, is that when you're talking to Sam about something that he knows, it's one person. You're talking about anything else, and he's a bumbling idiot. That happens with people who aren't experts in any area as well. So that's something that you definitely want to keep at the forefront of your mind whenever you're talking to anyone about anything.
And boundary problems. How do we like just what constitutes support for Hamas in these last 7 days, right? On social media and on the quad.
True.
It's an impossible problem. So you can.
Yeah, like if I think that meme with the paratrooper, I think that was disgusting. But should you be kicked out of Harvard because you shared that? I don't think so. At the same time, I certainly think you should get a lot of ridicule from your peers.
You can be as judicious as you want to be. I would advocate that, but I think we have to recognize, euphemisms aside, that terrorism is not our problem. Jihadism is our problem. And it's not that we don't have other problems. North Korea is also a problem. The other totalizing dogmas are also a problem. This is a very specific problem that is not going away. It will be with us for as long as we're alive and as long as our kids are alive.
Great. So, Eric.
Okay. So I'm now finally we have a position that that Sam has made that now Eric is going to be directly asked to respond to. So for the first time in 57 minutes and 17 seconds, maybe he's going to actually make a point. Maybe he's going to tell us what he thinks. Maybe he's going to have some sort of solution. Maybe he's going to have some actionable advice. Well, let's see.
What is your vision for how we start?
My positive vision, so that Sam.
No, and nobody's found what Sam has been doing that's unforgivable.
Okay, look, because you asked.
I'll give you a clue. Look at the wide shot. When it's all four of them, it should be very obvious, especially if you're married, especially if you're a woman.
For it, I think in all of the appearances, I've never actually shared this publicly.
He did do that,
but you're forcing the issue, and I'm not hiding from it. It's just, if we don't do anything different.
Oh, he says, if jihadists are a problem, does that mean he thinks our military is a problem too? I think I understand what you mean. Can you make the connection for me? So I think I understand what you mean, but if he thinks so, if jihadists are a problem, does that mean he thinks our military is a problem too? Because this is the through line between jihadists and our military. I think I agree with you, but I'm not sure where you're coming from. No, it's not his knees. It's something small. It's something small. But if you know, and if you're one of these people, it's gonna drive you insane when you see it.
We're going to get what Hamas wanted. So the first of all, I mean, it's
okay. Well,
the level of disagreement.
All right, I'll give everybody 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I moved the captions for you guys. Clue. Well, all the rest of the three of them are doing it right. But Sam, nope, not his ring. Take one more look and then I'll tell you. Can anybody see it? I moved the captions. Where were the captions before? Because they were blocking it. Nobody? The coaster! The coaster! Motherfucker! All of them have their drinks at the coaster's right there. Put your goddamn glass on the coaster. It's a wooden table. How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you? That's going to leave a ring. Unless that's what you meant. But I don't think that's what you meant. All right, moving on. I just thought it was a funny thing. I noticed it immediately.
From it, it's just, if we don't do anything different, we're going to get what Hamas wanted. So the first of all, I mean, it's the level of disagreement is very weird because it's 100% agreement on all sorts of factual things that you and I agree on. But no, the pictures really do matter, because when you pull a baby out of the rubble, the key question is that rubble due to Hamas, or is that rubble due to the person who dropped the bomb, right? So we have this concept of suicide by cop. You're about to see suicide by cop, or infanticide by cop, or Munchausen by proxy via cop, where the cop is the IDF.
Agreed.
Okay.
I am broke as fuck. Zimmy said, man, your mom must have messed you up down bad. Did I? Oh, okay. So earlier, Harley said, so if jihadists are a problem, does that mean he thinks that our military is a problem too? Because they enforce governments and practices to the ones they align with. No, that's not the issue. The issue is the dogma. The issue is the reason that they are doing it. So absolutely, the American government and military does things that are not justifiable. And so that's where I thought you were going, maybe about, in general, that, like, hey, U.S. government is doing fucked up shit all over the place too. In which case, I'd be like, absolutely. But we're not doing it in the name of God. We're doing it in the name of money. That is clear corruption. When you're doing something in the name of God, that's not corrupt. That's going exactly as it's supposed to be. So, I mean, maybe he does, but they're in the context that we're speaking about in this conversation, they're not the same there. But I completely agree with you that the American military takes a lot of liberties with what they are supposed to be doing. Yeah, the high life. Yeah, more like the high life, but certainly not the rich life.
Okay. If you want a positive vision,
yes,
the
please.
baseline is Israel's going to flatten North Gaza.
Okay.
And there's going to be tons of death and destruction.
Okay. All right. We finally have something out of Eric Weinstein. That if there is to be a solution, that Israel's going to flatten North Gaza and there's going to be tons of death and destruction.
And I would love to stop it. The right thing to have done, in my opinion, which will not be popular, which will be much more hated by Arabs than the idea of killing families through collateral damage. It's very simple.
I know where you're going. I think I've read your mind, but go ahead. Yeah.
Israel has a claim on a lot of land that it controls. And the Arabs have a claim on the same land. There's two competing claims. If you take the Israeli claim, you say, look, this land is ours. But we are not pigs. And we are not so attached to this land, and we are not so blind to your needs that we would not give you a portion of land that we consider to be ours because it comes from our tradition. We have a schedule. If you want to live as brothers in peace, there are arguments between brothers and families, but if you want a prosperous state.
Did he really just say, well, there's arguments between brothers and families, as if Israel and Palestine are brothers? Like, I don't think brothers typically blow each other up.
You go this many days without any loss of life due to terror.
Oh, this is good. This is actually good. I like this. So let's back this up. I remember him saying this. But
if you want to live,
this is his solution, or his proposed solution. What could be a solution?
As brothers in peace.
After this,
there are arguments between brothers and families, but if you want a prosperous state, if you go this many days without any loss of life due to terror.
Okay, so now we have number one. Israel says, okay, you want anything? Fine, give us this number of days without any loss of life due to terror. That's number one. Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Jihad or any of these things. And we will cede this land to your future state so that they're guaranteed that there will be a Palestine, even though we consider the land to be ours.
The land may not be the issue, but theoretically, the land could be a solution. It just depends on how you approach it. And if it can't be a solution, then somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. Israelstein, I like that. I like that.
You're interested in rape? Here's how many.
That's a weird. These guys need to learn how to phrase their shit.
Acres we will annex. You interested in murder? You interested in blowing up families? You want to take an egged bus over a cliff? Whatever it is that you're thinking about. Here's the schedule of the acreage that you will lose. We will have an annexing ceremony, and we will name it after your victims.
I don't know why he was burying the lead, but this is starting to make a lot of sense.
Whatever town, whatever settlement that we're going to put in that, and it'll be permanently a part of Israel. And so that way, when you do something to us where you're begging us to kill you and your children,
and that's a big part of it, is that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like from where I'm sitting that a lot of what Hamas is doing is to try to continue to escalate, because if it's just these little, what are you doing, bro? Go or don't. Go or don't. I'm doing a show here. You're not going? All right, then lay down. Come on. Dogs. The dogs. Come on, man. What was I saying before I was so rudely interrupted? I don't remember.
Blow up your buildings, to bulldoze your houses. We're not going to fall for it anymore.
Oh, right. So that, there's a lot of this stuff that gives credence to what Hamas is doing, because like, well, they're doing it too. And it goes back so far enough that like, well, who started it? It's like, all right, well, England started it, but that's not really what we're talking about. And so every time Hamas does something, now that is begging them to retaliate so that they can kill more Israelis. And so instead of doing that, this seems like a decent plan. So he says, that's not a bad idea, since they cannot stop themselves. I mean, I know he's a smart guy. I don't know why the fuck he sat here for an hour just not saying jack shit, but Goldwyn said, of course the land is the issue. It's the chosen land, and Israelis are an occupying force, says Goldwyn.
What we're going to do is we're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. And what we're going to see is a larger and larger and larger state of Israel as your moronic death cult continues to grind against innocent life.
Come on, man.
So rather than have a single death, you're going to have a transfer of acreage. Okay?
I like that. What do we think about that, guys? The notion that, okay, maybe the land is not the core of the issue, but certainly it is a big piece of the puzzle. And it's like, yo, we'll give you land. Just don't fuck with us. If you fuck with us, we're not going to fuck with you back so that you can fuck with us and then, spin narratives here and then have people, no, we're just going to take your shit. Sounds good to me.
But
And
that
that way-
entails a lot of death.
Right,
You're taking that acreage
No,
with tanks.
Because
right?
every time, first of all, there's a lot of land that Israel already controls that doesn't need to be taken by a tank. You have a different situation in Gaza in particular.
I don't know. That seemed like a good point from Sam. If you're taking land away from a country, territory, whatever, how are you going to take that land? Now, again, I am not against the making moves to go on a full offensive to end the conflict. But that's what Eric is saying, is to prevent any more of to prevent any more death on the side of the Palestinians on the hands of Israelis. It's a good point. And definitely, yeah, using a lot of loaded terms. Goldwyn said Israel literally wants to move them to the Sinai Desert. Well, but this is why it's a compromise. So if the story here is that if they open up the Gaza Strip, then then Hamas would come over and kill everybody, but the Israelis would do nothing. They just want their home. Then we're really gonna see. That's an easy narrative to keep up while we got all this bullshit going on. But following what Weinstein's talking about, how you gonna have your cake and eat it too in terms of hurting people of Hamas or Palestine, and also saying we want peace, we want a solution. And Astroval like, hey, desert be looking like kind of a nice place, especially if you're not getting bombed every goddamn day, right? Hey, welcome to the party, Poon Cooter. Good to see you. How long ago was this convo? Today. I don't know if it was today, but this aired today, 6 hours ago. 6 hours ago. I saw that when I woke up, and I had no idea what we were going to talk about. I was like, hell yeah. Asherbrow says, Sinai Desert. Oh, yeah, we got that one already. Harley said, why not do what the U.S. did? United States under one country. Because they want to kill each other. Do you want to kill the people of New Jersey? Of course not. That's why we can be in the same country as you. If you wanted to kill us, then we wouldn't want to be in the same country as you. Goldfeller said in 1967, the UN gave them over half of Palestine, the most fertile good parts, named Israel, and they've been they've been creeping, taking more land ever since. Brand new. Yeah, and I mean the fact of the matter is, whatever happened, we are here now. And we're not talking about like the same people. The same people who were fighting in 1967 are not the same people who are fighting today. So this goes back all the way to when we're talking about Ukraine. And it's like, okay, I understand that there was promises made, but is there no room for me as an adult American tax-paying voting citizen to be like, can we like maybe just take a look at this again? No, I'm not allowed. Not at all. Just set in stone.
Right. So Gaza, first of all, is not occupied. It was given. It's controlled in terms of its borders. But when you make videos showing how, oh, look, we dug up all these pipes, we figured out how to get over the fence with paragliders, et cetera, you understand now why the borders are being controlled. So yes, there's a certain amount that you have to do, but you can certainly minimize this. If suddenly a giant chunk of land disappeared from the West Bank, and that was the response.
And again, I don't know if you caught that, but Sam had the same reaction that he's like, but I just lodged this objection that how are you going to take the land without tanks? Look at his face.
And disappeared from the West Bank, and that was the response. And nobody died, for example.
But how there are people on that land? I mean, how does nobody die?
Well, first of all, people have been transferred from land. Second of all, there are chunks of land, there are settlements and things that have not yet been formally annexed to Israel. What I'm trying to say, Sam.
So I think Eric really has a good idea, but he's just like trying to push the cause of his idea being good is that, oh, well, nobody's going to die. So that this is the best option. No. People are going to die. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea. People are already dying. People are going to continue to die without a good solution. So even if no matter what, people are going to die. I'd rather that if people are going to die, that there is a solution on the horizon. And like Bonzig said, that's why they must choose one timeline. So that, okay, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. And then it's done. Even if it's like a Iraq, Afghanistan, America thing, as long and pointless as that was, it was only 2 decades. In comparison to what's going on there, not really that much. So, I mean, I'm not understanding why either side is even trying to keep alive this idea of a two-state solution. We tried that. It didn't work. What other options do we have? Keep trying what doesn't work and keep having people die? Or choose a timeline where, unfortunately, because y'all are assholes, a bunch of people are going to die, but then it stops. And just like Sam was talking about with America and Japan, maybe y'all will be friends. Why is that wrong? On either side.
Sam, is that you're speaking to somebody who speaks only the language of violence. And
no, he's speaking to you. We're asking you, Eric.
The thing that I don't know how to communicate is I have a rule that I can't care about somebody else's children more than they care about their children.
They speak a different, there's even a more important language, which is the language of religious symbols. This is where I thought you were going. It turns out telepathy isn't real, or I don't know. Because
No, actually, I was going there, but I saw what you were doing. And I realized
they care much
For whatever reason, it's not working.
more about buildings than about their children. Right? I mean, if you really want to see the wheels come off, Israel could say, listen, return the hostages in 48 hours or we blow up the Dome of the Rock, right? And they just rig that building to explode. What do you think happens? The entire world lights up, right? I mean, like we're talking about, it's like, that's Armageddon, right? Over a building, right? It's completely crazy. It's all upside down. The ethics of this are completely upside down.
Sucks to suck. Okay? Sucks to suck. If Canada or Mexico was bombing us, then we wouldn't be like, Israel, you have to help. We're only going to fire 5 bombs because we don't want to, we're just going to fire 5. So you guys go do the rest.
What?
No, we would fuck their shit up and Israel would have nothing to worry about. Why is it not the other way around?
Upside down.
You don't mean buildings, because there are plenty of apartment buildings where Hamas has, headquarters and builds rockets.
Getting
No, I'm talking about the
pedantic.
Dome of the Rock, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like, if you're going to talk about emotional leverage, that's the point of emotional leverage. That's more than we're going to kill all your kids. That we're going to kill this one empty building, right?
Sorry, I don't know where we are exactly.
I'm just saying that
He's saying that they care more about their temples than they do about their lives.
is, if you're talking about this is where I thought you were going. That I mean, Israel does not have leverage saying we're going to go back and take Gaza for ourselves, or we're going to take more of the West Bank. That's not leverage. The whole place is as big as his living room.
No, it's not true.
It's a tiny.
Sam, if you annex land,
I just got to say, 38% of you, I know I'm the atheist, but 38% of you are goddamn heathens. Use a fucking coaster.
to Israel, I guarantee you
And look, I completely understand that if they're fighting and Iran gets involved and this, fine. But we're already there. We're already there. Why are we going to fight a war to make sure that we don't fight a war? That doesn't make sense. Let's fight a war when and if we have to fight a war. This is true. That doesn't change anything that we're talking about.
the world will freak out. It won't freak out as if you threatened Al-Aqsa. And I don't even want to talk about this because I don't want to get involved.
I'm not saying I recommend that. I'm saying that is how upside down the situation is. That would be the most provocative thing they could possibly do. That's actually under their control.
Let's interrogate this idea of annexing land, because I think Sam's critique rather, that I hear and agree with is that if you start annexing land, you are going to have to do it by force, which is when you're back to square one. Israel is the occupier state, flattening cities, killing babies, etc. How's that different to where we are now?
Exactly.
I'm trying to say that in the cycle of violence, what is sought by the architects of murder, misery, and horror is reprisal. Physical, kinetic reprisal. I'm saying deny them that.
But you're not going to deny them that. You're going to make them the jihadis, if we accept that they exist, which of course they do.
Real quick though, look at these. Wait. Oh no, that's a coaster. Coaster.
They are going to scupper that process with everything they have by
Assume that
committing
they
atrocities.
do, and assume that you're.
And then you're going to have to annex land on which Palestinians live, in which case you're back to collateral damage.
Again,
Yup.
my
Occupier.
claim, look,
Yup.
what a terrible situation.
I don't like how he's taking this holier than thou stand. Like, you guys are trying to talk about solutions with violence, okay? Like, yeah, bro, they're violent fucking people. That's the problem here. If they weren't violent people, then we wouldn't have this problem. Kohler said, justice must be established. That is the only solution. Zig is above the clouds. Hey, welcome back. Yes, he did. So he actually had a really, really, really good point. He's just not willing to take it all the way. So basically, his point is that like when Hamas attacks, they're expecting Israel to attack back so that they can keep the fight going. But Israel's not like going full offensive, so the conflict just continues. So Eric's saying, okay, we're not going, give us X number of days without any death due to terrorism. And we're cool. If you do, then we're going to take your land. Now, Eric's trying to say that they can do this without killing people. And Sam's like, well, how are you going to take land without killing people? And I'm saying, hey, people are already dying. Let's fucking try to end this because people are going to die anyway. He definitely is it's interesting because again, he's like one of the, he's a very loud anti-woke voice. So it's very strange, this whole issue, like where people to me, it's really thrown a wrench into the woke system. Welcome, Split, to the party. Said I stand with Israel on the matter, but I don't support innocent men, women, and children dying on either side. However, I hate that leftists keep trying to justify what Hamas has done. I agree. Because I'm to say you can't rationalize with evil people. It's like trying to rationalize with a pedo or an arpist. Yep. And I mean, like you said, it's there's innocent people dying on both sides, and that's why, with a good idea about the land, which is maybe not the entire conflict, but a significant part of the conflict, should be at the center of the conflict. Goldwater said the U.S. is faking being the world police, but they're really being paid off by the mob boss in the Middle East. Was that Saudi Arabia?
Okay.
We all agree on that.
I'm not coming up with this as this is what to do when you have two normal foes that are in dispute over mineral resources.
But that's precisely the way that you're talking about it, as if it's not people who are playing a zero-sum game where they all want the other ones dead.
Mm-hmm.
We know what that is. This is not that. This is
exactly. So people, unfortunately, need to die
in our apartment buildings so that we can pull the babies from the rubble. We have the
again with the babies from the rubble. Unless you have a solution that doesn't include babies out of the rubble, then unfortunately, due to nobody on screen in that room over here or in this chat, due to none of us, babies are already dying. That is already happening.
We have the cameras and we know how to do this in 4K, right? This is a completely different sort of an enemy. And my claim is,
which is why people need to die. Yes.
The story of Israel exercising power over Arabs who are not Israeli citizens is a cancerous story. And if Israel does not figure out how to get out of that story, even to the point where it's got a state that it has to go up against in a war, and I agree with Sam that we fetishize now a level of morality due to professional military ethics that is probably unsustainable in actual war between comparable rivals.
All right, so I think I just want to hear Sam's response to this. We finally got a point and a solution out from him, but it has a little bit of flaw that Sam pointed out. And I know the after party is gonna be fucking lit. I know you guys are waiting to get over there, so we're definitely head over there. But I do want to hear what he has to say.
We're going to have to get a lot less squeamish. People are going to die.
You're the one saying, oh, we can't have people die. And then, well, we got to be mature about this. People are going to die.
What?
This is what happens in war. There's always
wait. I think that counts as a projection drink.
collateral damage. And the situation that I want, and again, this isn't particularly good for this 50th anniversary attack of the Yom Kippur War. I wanted this in place 20 years ago. Nobody would listen. And that was,
nobody listened to me. I had all the right ideas, but nobody listened.
Based much more around blowing up a pizza parlor. Okay, great. So there's land that we've always thought was ours, and we're going to formally take it, and we're not going to have a reprisal, and we're not going to have a bulldozer knock over a house.
Based.
because Israel is being induced into a game theory according to the local rules of the Middle East, and then broadcast into a somewhat anti-Semitic West. This is
the media,
strategy
propaganda.
of the
I
Arabs
get it.
in this
All right.
situation.
Sam,
which is
what do you got to say?
into a sophisticated for people and installation.
%. But that does not mean that the solution you proposed worked. And that's the thing that we're talking about.
We just have to imagine what happens when you grab all that land.
Right.
Yeah.
Then Israel just has different borders, but they're
Israel
still at
doesn't-
war with jihadists and Hamas
You're
and
going to be
Hamas
at
and anyone
war
else.
with jihadists forever, Sam. That's not going to end. And to be honest, and I can't believe we're not pushing back on this, the idea of killing people with sympathies with jihadi ideology.
I know. I said
That's not what he said.
jihadists.
No.
Again, this was he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, but clearly we see their positions. We see that Sam is surprisingly consistent that dogma is bad, that the problems lie within the dogma, within the religion, and there's a reason that we see this type of conflict there, specifically that playing out like this for such a long time. Even though, as Harley sort of brought up, that our own government, our own military has done some crazy, not kosher shit. No, I mean that's not really a pun, but no pun intended. But we on between Israel and Palestine is not a birthday party. It's a war. And now American dollars, the American president, as much as let's go Biden, he's still my fucking president. I don't want him going over to a war zone and getting blown up because reasons. We're still Americans. We're not Israelis. If you are, then fine. I completely understand why you have a different perspective than me. But I'm an American. I care about my home. I care about my countrymen. And this it's almost virtue signaling. This virtuous signaling that, well, we have to be the ones to solve this issue, and we can do it without anybody else dying, but it just has to be this. That's never going to happen. Why even sit down to have the conversation? If you're coming to the table with, well, I think we can solve this without anybody dying, go home. Go home. You're wrong. Unless you have something so out of left field and so brilliant that nobody ever thought of it before, then people have been poring over how to fix this for centuries. And we are not there. And still, this two-state solution thing is what people are talking about. And I would love if that could be the case. I would love if we could have a situation that was solvable without violence. But it doesn't seem like we are there. So let's say in most countries, hands are not clean. That's also a good point. A very kind of how we can do this without while we're being nice. It's just that's not the world we live in. It seems like that because America is so strong that we're given the privilege of feeling like the world is safe like that, but it's not. CD says it's zippy. Yeah, this is all just a big circle for a military industrial complex. Definitely feels like a scapegoat for arms dealers to get rich. So I have to say, Israel take over and ensure human rights are protected. The state cannot invalidate property, personal rights, and freedom of speech, lest make it the same as civilians. Then replying to CT said, not to mention allows the corporations to keep oil and resource prices down so they can maximize prices. Add in the mic. What's the mic? NWO in full effect. It definitely does feel like that. So, I mean, obviously this is not, I'm so sick of talking about this, guys. I really hope something else happens because I just don't want to talk about this anymore. But the fact of the matter is, it is a real situation. It is happening. People are dying as they have been consistently. And it's ironic that, gotcha. Thank you. It's ironic that literally 2 weeks ago, we were in a position where I was able to make the joke, hey, remember when we were worried about Islamic terrorism? Thank you, Bonzig. And then a week later, as again, as Harley correctly pointed out, that we're just not paying attention to this stuff. And it's happening. It brings up the question, well, okay, now why, like, there's other stuff happening in the world too. This stuff has been going on and we haven't been focusing on it. So what's happening that they're not talking about because they want us to focus on this? That's what I'm really curious about. Because honestly, thank you. Honestly, I'm just kind of, I'm bored of this. I'm bored of this. Y'all want to kill each other? Then fucking kill each other. Just leave me out of it. If you create a situation where me and my countrymen are in trouble, all right, then we have a reason to have a conversation about this. But outside of just an intellectual academic discussion, this means nothing. This means nothing. And I'm sorry if you're Jewish, if you're Israeli, if you're Palestinian, I'm sorry. But as much as you don't care what happens in my home, because it's not your home, I'm sorry. I don't care what's happening if people are not going to stand up for themselves. Xander said the problem is our elite love being imperialist and having war. They do not think like citizens who worry about life. The elite want war, no matter which side it is, because they benefit from both. Bingo. Yep. CT says that's the what's the yeah, what's the real thing happening? If this is the public debate, what's going on behind the scenes? Yep. It's just maybe your audio's cut out 3 times since I joined. Well, why didn't you tell me? Anybody else hear that? Let me know when stuff like that happens, guys. But thank you for letting me know. Xander says the distraction away from our own border and our own problems is also the goal. Until something horrific happens, then the government claims emergency powers, and bam, rights are gone. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. So, guys, I know you are dying to break down everything and tear down everything I just said. So head over to Discord. If you are not a channel member, you can still head over there. There is a free chat channel for everybody. But if you want to be part of the voice chat after party where you're not stuck behind your keyboard, you're actually on screen with me and everybody else, just join as a member. You can click below if you are on where I wish Bailey was here. I forget. You just have to, if you go to the actual channel on iPhone, because they suck, you can't, there's no join button, but just go to the channel and you'll be able to see memberships, join up, and send me a DM on Discord. The links are all over. If one of the mods could drop that link one more time, that is where we are headed. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know it's getting tiring just talking about this over and over and over and over again, but there's just nothing else going on. So I'm looking, I'm searching. We got the weekend. Hopefully something we can come back. You know, last time we had a nice panel, about dating and stuff. We're definitely not talking about this on Monday unless something drastic happens. Even still, probably not going to dive into it. But I really do appreciate you guys being here. Let's give a shout out to Unwanted Foe for the comment of the night. Punctuation is important. It's the difference between helping your Uncle Jack off a horse and helping your Uncle Jack off a horse. Thank you, Harley. And of course, the donations. Thank you, Indie Phil. Thank you. And of course, our boy, Unwanted Foe, also got the comment of the night and the sponsor of the stream, Xander Crew. Thank you so much, guys. You know how much it fucking means to me that you are here. You are spending your time. It's Friday night. I know you could be out doing anything, but the fact that you're here means the fucking world to me. And when you can actually part with your hard-earned money and help this grow, help this do what it's supposed to do, help this actually have a meaningful difference in the world, which bet your bottom dollar, we definitely will. It takes time. Anything worthwhile takes time. But people like Indie Film, people like Unwanted Foe, people like Xander, and people like you guys in the chat, we will get there. We will get there. Just keep coming back. I'll keep coming back. You keep doing your part, and we'll fix this shit. We will fix this shit. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope to see you over in the after party. One more time, I have been your host, Lunch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, I am out of here. Peace.